Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Fan Show, talking about everything Tottenham Hotspur with fellow Spurs fans dotted all around the world. Now, we're live on YouTube, we're live on X, Facebook and Twitch. So if you're watching live, please do get involved. Let us know how you are feeling right now as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. If you're watching or listening to the recording, please do get involved next time and even appear on the show. If you'd like to appear on one of these fan shows, please do send me an email. It is tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. It is great to hear from so many of you, particularly dotted all around the world. Now, we are very proud to be the most watched and listened to Spurs fan channel on YouTube. Very, very proud of that. And it's very important to us that you have a voice talking about what you want to talk about. Of course, things that are important to you, things that are important to us as fans, and most importantly, things that are important to the club. Now, I've got channel regular Craig Dearman joining me this morning. Craig, first of all, let's start the show with you. How are you this Saturday morning? It seems strange that we haven't got a game for a little while, until Thursday, actually. Alkmaar away. We haven't got a Premier League game or an FA Cup game this weekend. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan, particularly after the last couple of weeks, going out of 2 cup competitions, 3 wins in the Premier League, then, of course, that defeat midweek against Man City at home. Players are coming back. Of course, the protest happened before that Manchester United game. Ange Postecoglou, many people seem to be very mixed on him. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, it's been a certainly mixed month or so, isn't it? It's weird, but there's always something going on at Tottenham, as we all know. I'm fully behind Ange till the end of the season now. I did have a wobble, I must admit, during that period, but as I've said before, what else is out there? What else? We've got to get behind the club, get behind Ange, get behind the team now on this Europa, because kind of all eggs in that basket, and that Man City game seems to be the case. All our eggs are in that Europa basket. It was a bit weird for me because 8 days between that game and the Alkmaar game, so perhaps didn't need to be. It was quite obvious, wasn't it, that resting certain players for that. But I get the opportunity, giving other players minutes in the legs. Good to see Odebear out there again and coming through that game. So yeah, I mean, it's this club, honestly, it drives you into an early grave, I swear to God. But yeah, we're all here for the ride, aren't we? It's a weird couple of weeks or month coming up, what with Europa, couple of league games, and then the international break, of course, and then obviously back into it. But even the first game after the international break is quite a way off after that, isn't it? I think it's Chelsea. Is it Chelsea, the next one after that? Yeah. So yeah, it's weird. It's like 4 games obviously at the beginning of the month, and then the international break. So yeah, you'd hope we'd have all our players back by then, and then it would be interesting to see where we go from there.
How are you feeling in terms of the league position? Because many fans, particularly after or during our live after that Manchester City game, seem to be quite upset the fact that we've lost 14 Premier League games at this stage of the season. And I know that I've spoken about this, and we've spoken about it a number of times, about the hopes now of every fan about winning a trophy, the Europa League. I know I said this a couple of months ago, that everyone was kind of putting, our hopes into that basket of winning a cup, an FA Cup or a League Cup. It seems quite strange to me, because only yesterday I was going through my diary and I was deleting off all of the dates, the League Cup final that I thought we'd be in, or I was hoping we'd be in, all of the FA Cup remaining dates, including this weekend, deleted off the calendar. I suppose that is all, to finish the season, on a high with some success. Of course, we haven't won a trophy in 17 years. What's the chances, Craig, of us going all the way to that Europa League final?
Look, if we get through Alkmaar, which I expect us to, then you're in the quarters, and there's not many games. Essentially, obviously double-legged quarters and semis, and then the final. So you're just 3 rounds away. But thank you, Milton. It's look, it's going to be a big ask. There's still some good teams in there, but there's no reason we get our players back. We can't do something in that Europa. I know Gary said from the start. He said back in August that we're going to win this competition. So,
yeah,
look, it'd just be lovely to get a trophy in the cabinet, wouldn't it? And like you, I mean, I didn't watch it last night, but seeing Villa cruised past their opponents last night, and that, I know it doesn't necessarily work like that with a draw, but you know, they got hopefully that slightly easier draw in the next round, and then being in the quarters of the FA Cup. So it's just frustrating, obviously, how we went out of both cups very quickly, and just all went flat for a little while. But look, that's football, and we've got to pick ourselves up and go for it. And I think this Europa is really a good chance for us, to be honest.
Do you know what, Craig? It might be quite sulky or stroppy of me, but once we're out of those cups, I'm not really interested in them anymore.
No, I'll watch the final if I'm around. I won't certainly make plans and cancel things just to watch it. I'll watch the FA Cup final, but possibly the League Cup final. But yeah, I'm like you. It kind of loses something when we're out of it, doesn't it?
All focused now on the Europa League, and of course, let's hope that Spurs can get a good league position come the end of the season. Right, Craig, let's get our first guest on. I'll tell you what, I absolutely love doing these shows. I love talking to fellow Spurs fans. I could literally talk to fellow Spurs fans for hours. We're going to get Stu Miller on first. Stu, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Morning, lads. Doing well, thanks. It's a bright, sunny day. I'm feeling bright and sunny, so let's carry that forward as much as we can. And it's funny, your comment just there. You could literally speak for Spurs fans for us. You do literally speak to Spurs fans. What was it, 5 hours the other day? Just again, just want to say full credit to you guys for all the work you put in, and it's appreciated.
Thank you.
I wanted to pick up on the losses, the number of losses that you mentioned a few minutes ago. Obviously, none of us are happy with that statistic, and it's not acceptable for where we want to be. I do think it's interesting. I can't remember if this was mentioned recently. I think Ange might have mentioned it. Do you know how many games in total this year, this whole season, that we've lost by more than one goal?
One, isn't it?
One in the league, and then once against Liverpool in the cup. Which, okay, look, I'm not saying the losses are acceptable, but I think that does show that we're a little bit closer than we might think we are. If you just look at, okay, we've lost that many games. We still, goal difference does actually show that as well, doesn't it? Because we've got same goal difference as, teams that are far higher up in the table and higher than some of those. So despite all the injuries, despite, all the problems that we've had, I do retain that optimism. And, people might say it's blind faith. People might say it's Ange cult, whatever. I don't really care. If you look at that, I think there's reason to be optimistic, and that we're closer than we might think we are just by looking at the table. It does point to a fact that our game management hasn't been good enough this season, and I think we can lay responsibility on that, on Ange, on the players themselves. We've had an incredible amount of individual errors, I think, this season, and part of that has to go down to players that are not used to playing together. Obviously, injuries comes into that, and just some of those players, unfortunately, I think aren't good enough for what we need. But yeah, I'm trying to just have that optimistic take. I'm trying not to be too optimistic about the Europa League, to be honest, because it's the hope that kills you. Obviously, that will be an incredible achievement. But I think from my side, I want Ange to stay regardless of whether we win the Europa League. If we sack him in the summer, it's the same old. And we've talked about this before. Short-termism is what we've basically been relying on for far too long. Other than maybe Pochettino, how many managers have stayed longer than a couple of years? And that matters. You look at, apart from Chelsea, are a bit of an outlier because they just have spent a ridiculous amount of money to get a lot of their successes. How many teams have been successful with changing their manager every couple of years? It doesn't happen.
I was going to say, Stu, the fan base are so mixed, though, aren't they, on Postecoglou?
Yeah, and it's understandable. You look at the results. If you just look at the results, then of course that is a very worrying situation. What I like about Ange is that the way that he talks, and he hasn't actually been at any clubs longer than a couple of years in throughout most of his career, but the way he talks about Tottenham, he does talk about it as the long-term vision. He talks about bringing the young players through. He talks about the growth that we'll have from all these tough situations that we've been going through. And I think he's here for the long haul if we stay with him. I don't know who we'll get who's any better. We wanted Slot last year, as if he was going to come to us over any kind of team that are consistently at the top. We haven't won a trophy for 17 years. We haven't won a FA Cup for 34 years. We haven't won a league for 64 years. We are not quite as big as we think we are. We have the nice flashy stadium, but we're not a team competing for trophies regularly. So, are we going to get anyone significantly better than Ange? I don't know. I personally don't think that's realistic. And B, I just love the way that he is trying to play the Tottenham way. He is trying to put on entertaining football. We are the most entertaining football team in the league, regardless of, how stressful it is, with all the losses. I just think there's lots to be positive about, and that's my kind of theme of the day, really.
Craig, Craig, before you come in, I just want to say this, and I know I'll probably get battered for it, but I feel like when things go wrong, and there is this big pile-on of it's all going wrong, Ange Postecoglou this, Ange Postecoglou that, but then when things go right, I don't feel that Ange Postecoglou gets enough credit for when things do go right and when he does change things in games, because there seems to be this media narrative, and I think a lot of fans have jumped on this bandwagon as well of we don't do enough changes in games, or he doesn't do this and he doesn't do that. I just don't feel like he gets enough credit when things do go right, particularly when we won those 3 games before the City game. Craig, sorry.
I think that's a very fair point. And with the City game, obviously we've been hearing a lot about the resting of the 3 players. Can you imagine just an alternative, parallel universe where Spence or Sonny or Kulu had got injured had they started, or they'd pulled up with an injury because they've been playing so many minutes? He would have been slaughtered. Why aren't you resting players? We've heard that all season from moaners who've been saying, why isn't Ange resting players? Why isn't he rotating? That's why we've got so many injuries. So you can't have your cake and eat it. Stick with your guns. Either you want him to rest players, and retain freshness in the squad, or you don't. But I see a lot of hypocrisy, a lot of fickle. I mean, we know that's how a lot of fans are. If you're just if you're just following the media and you're not really paying attention to what's going on, then that's an easy thing to do. And I'm not saying that, my opinion is any better than anyone else's, but I do try to, look at the whole picture rather than just focus on little things that are easy to criticize. Sorry, just before we kind of maybe start to finish my bit, I want to talk about the summer, because obviously we're into March now. We're going to be starting thinking about transfers. And I just wanted to get your boys' opinion on what you think our priorities should be in the summer window.
I think you're talking about obviously that we've only lost 2 games by more than 1 goal. So I would certainly agree that there's we're doing some things right, but there's obviously some things that still need a lot of work. Personally, for me, I'm not always convinced it's just the defence that needs strengthening. I've said for months and months, I think we're supposed to press as a team, and I think when Solanke isn't there, you can see a big difference up front. But it's the midfield for me. It is the midfield. The midfield protects certain parts of the midfield, protects that back 4, and sometimes we get sliced open. So for me, a really good number 6, like a Rodri. I'm not saying Rodri's kind of one of his, but something like that, a player that's specifically a CDM. And I think we need strengthening in forward positions as well, across the front 3, and a left back to challenge your dog. Even though Spence is brilliant, I think we could use a dedicated a left-footed left back as well.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, a left back, and if you can play left centre back, that's a bonus. We've probably not got more than 1 or 2 years out of Ben Davies, for example. Danso's come in and looked pretty good. I think he's a great backup at the very least. Drag, I'm still not totally sold on Drag, but he's young, and I hope he can improve his kind of distribution and composure. He could be a great centre back with the physical attributes he has. But yeah, I agree with you in terms of the striker. I desperately want to get at least one more wide player, and not one for the future. I want a high quality, and I know that's difficult with the position we're in, but we need a winger that can consistently challenge Sonny on the left, Johnson on the right, and be starting games and affect games by taking them on and scoring some goals from the wide positions.
I'm going to say exactly the same, Stu, as what I said last summer. Ready-made players to come in this team. Ready-made.
Yeah.
I'm all for players for the future, but of course you need that great mixture of ready-made players to come in. And left back was on the agenda, but of course, with the emergence now of Jed Spence at left back, I don't feel that the club will then go out and buy a left back because they will feel that Jed Spence can fit in there. And also, Archie Gray, fair play to him, what a season he's had. It just seems that if we've got a player out, no matter what position it is, they'll say, well, Archie Gray can play there. So, let's wait and see what happens. But of course, I think that question is going to be really reliant on, is Ange Postecoglou going to be the manager next season? So it'll be an interesting one. Stu, you're always great with your opinions on here, and thank you so much for all of your support. I know you're very supportive of this show, and every single time we do a live, we always notice your comments. So thank you so much for all of your input.
I appreciate it, and I hope the Ring of Fire's getting better, Craig.
Thanks,
guys.
Have a great weekend. See you soon.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Right. Sorry, wrong button. Right. We're now going to go to Ian in Sheffield. Ian, good morning. How are you?
Morning, Chris. Morning, Craig. Not
Good
bad.
morning, Ian.
I'm feeling your pain as well, Craig.
Oh, really? Oh, lovely.
Man, more Jaeger, though, more than a bit of food, sorry.
I don't know how to explain this one. I didn't think we were going to talk about that. Craig, do you want to come in now?
I think all the viewers and listeners need to know is that I had a curry last night, and it's letting me know this morning. So I think that's all you need to know.
Oh, you have gone there. Wow. Ian, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan in this season?
Mixed emotions. I'm not sure. Like I said to you, I'd like to know what'll happen if and when we get knocked out. What you'd feel you'd want him to do? Leave? Wait till end of season? Or I don't know. I think it's a weird one, isn't it? It gives you mixed emotions all the time, that you feel that he's good, and then next minute you feel he's not so great. I don't know. What do you both think? If we go out, do you think that's ended him?
No, I think they'll stick with him. I can't see the point in getting rid till the summer, perhaps, unless they've got a plan, which we obviously none of us are privy to. Like I say, I think we should have easily enough to get past AZ and then see where quarterfinal onwards takes us. But Ian, I'm curious. How obviously you've got a fairly substantial Yorkshire accent there. How did you end up supporting Tottenham and not Leeds or Sheffield or something?
I get that all the time. My dad said one of my first words were Tottenham. You know what I mean? My dad didn't like football, so I chose my own team, if that makes sense.
Oh, right. Okay.
Chris, this is the question I'm going to ask you, in fact. When you were on about it today, your favourite signing was Klinsmann, weren't it?
Yeah.
Did you go to that match? That was my first ever Tottenham match.
What, the Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, 4-3.
I didn't go.
Are you joking?
No, I didn't go. I was too young, and I was badgering my dad. Yeah, I was at the time. I couldn't have gone there myself. That was the point. But that
was my
season,
first ever one. I bought my dad had got me tickets out of a local paper. I sat in North Stand at Wednesday with a Tottenham shirt underneath.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that season remains one of my favourites. That 94-95 season, and the reason why I go on about Klinsmann so much is because I just felt, and I've never seen it since. Son, perhaps, Gareth Bale, perhaps, and Van der Vaart, players like that. But it was just that feeling of going into the White Hart Lane at the time, and whatever away ground that I went to that season as well. That you know, whenever Klinsmann had the ball, whether he was on the halfway line or at the edge of the 18-yard box, wherever, everyone was on the edge of their seat. It was just simply incredible. I don't think a player has had that impact so much on me personally.
Exactly.
Just so exciting.
Yeah, did we pay 2 million for him? Were it from Monaco?
Yeah,
Weren't it?
Yeah, 2 million. Yeah.
I remember with the 5 that we bought, were famous 5 up front, were it?
Yeah.
We Anderton, Barnby, Sheringham, Klinsmann.
There's a good program actually. It's only about 20-25 minutes long on Sky about the Klinsmann transfer. If you haven't seen it, definitely go and watch it because it's really interesting. It does take me back because I'm a little bit older than Chris, not much, but obviously I remember that. I remember that, and the pick because back then, of course, and I love talking about things like this. There was no social media. You knew we'd signed a player when you read it on the back of the newspaper. And
teletext,
teletext sometimes, and you know, you could. I remember you could ring up the Tottenham transfer hotline from CFAX, and it was like an 0898 number, easy, nothing like that. It was a Tottenham number. I remember I was still living at home. My granddad absolutely tore a strip off me because he's back in the, you know, you got the paper phone bill through, and he said, "What's all these numbers?" And it was almost shameful though. I had to say, I think he was more disappointed because he was a Chelsea fan. That he was more disappointed I was ringing a Tottenham line than another line, should we say? So I think he was more disappointed in that. But yeah, seeing Klinsmann on the back page, like holding the shirt up, because it was very clever with Alan Sugar. Alan Sugar, wasn't it? And he said he had it was a shirt or something he had specifically, so Klinsmann couldn't, because other clubs were sniffing around, and he said no, once he's pictured with that shirt, we've got him, and the deal was done, and he was on his yacht in Monaco, and it was just, I thought, hang on, is this April Fool's Day? We're signing this world-class player, and it was just an unbelievable feeling, and like Chris says, and I agree, we haven't signed a world-class player since, probably, or not of that standard, you know, 27, 28, peak of his game, World Cup and all that, and
he come back, when he come back second time, he come to help us from being relegated nearly, didn't he? I vaguely remember him, did he score 4 against Wimbledon or?
That's it, 6-2 win,
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. But Ian, going back to this season, I know it's probably a silly question, but how can Spurs finish on a positive? Winning the Europa League, you know, climbing up that Premier League table. Well, I said this on the podcast the other night. When you look at that whole batch of teams now, you know, gunning for a European spot, we do seem to be, you know, somewhat behind. We would need to go on a really good run from now until the end of the season to try and get any form of European spot for next season if we don't win the Europa League.
That's what made it so disappointing, weren't it, against Man City? It just felt like that would ended it. At that point, I thought, we'll be able to, if we win tonight, it'll push us up again, and we are in with some sort of shout of finishing in a respectable position. But I don't know. I think the only thing we've got to hope now is Europa, innit? And if we get that, then it's massive, isn't it? But I don't know. I'd like to see it, but it's progressed, but I don't see it's such a big difference, 9 points in the between you, 8th, 9th to us. But it just seems embarrassing to be in that position to me what we're in.
Thing is, Ian, though, I mean, we were talking about it with Stu before about giving managers time, and in my opinion, Manchester United, they're probably in a worse state than us. I mean, they keep getting rid of managers after 18 months, 2 years, or whatever, and they seem to be going around in circles. And I think a club like Manchester United, seeing them where they are, I mean, that's probably even more shock to their fans than Tottenham fans. So, you know, I don't know what it's like up there, like with the Manchester. I'm sure everybody loves the fact that they're struggling.
He hasn't got Manchester United fans up there. We've got them down here.
Yeah, that's very true. There's probably more down here, isn't there? That's very true.
Oh, this Yorkshire Spurs one again. Do you know what at that time? They were good. That was a good day, weren't it?
Yeah. Yorkshire Spurs, good guys. Good guys. Ian, lastly, will Spurs win the Europa League, yes or no?
Fingers crossed. You're going to get in it.
People say I'll sit on the fence.
We'll say, yeah, we will. We will. Ish.
Ian, thanks so much for joining us. We'll speak to you again soon.
All right, cheers, pal. See you in a bit.
Thanks,
See you
Ian.
later.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers,
Yeah.
mate.
Right, we are now going to go all the way to Istanbul, Turkey, to speak to Orçun. Orçun, good morning. How are you?
Oh, he's
I'm
on a
good,
roof.
Chris. Can you hear me?
Wow, where are you?
I thought I'd give you a bit of a scenery. I'm on the rooftop of my flat, so a bit of Istanbul for you there. Bit of a sunny day
Fantastic.
today. There you go.
Fantastic. Orçun, I know we speak to you on a regular basis, but
Yeah.
how are you feeling right now? Because as I mentioned to Craig at the very start, 3 wins in the Premier League. You know, some people started to feel positive again, and then of course that defeat against Manchester City in the last couple of weeks, going out of both domestic cup competitions. Of course, we've got the Europa League left. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's the first half of Man City was really disappointing. I would have liked to have maybe. I understood what Ange did in terms of resting some of those players, but players like Spence, I think they could have started. So yeah, it was disappointing. Anyway, the second half obviously was much better, but I would have really liked us to keep that winning momentum going. And obviously, Man City we always do really well against usually. And we were at home, so yeah, I would have liked us to continue that kind of winning. It's like momentum, isn't it? Once you get that momentum, and then you come to that kind of hard crashing stop of another disappointing loss, and the manner in which we lost it, it was disappointing, obviously.
Yeah, but you're still behind Ange Postecoglou, Orçun?
Yeah, I think I always said, in view of, obviously, you've got to put things into perspective. In view of, I know people are sick of hearing about injuries and stuff. It was, the last sort of 2-3 months was incredibly disruptive. So it's difficult to judge someone when they're having to deal with such, extraordinary kind of situations. So I think, obviously, I think the biggest test now is if we can get majority of our players, because I think obviously against Man City, even if we had Solanke back, I think if Solanke was playing in that game, even with the starting 11 that Ange went with, I think we could have won that game personally. So even if we like just getting someone like Solanke back at the front, in the attack, and if we can keep majority of the players fit until the end of the season, I'd like to see what kind of performance stats he racks up until the end of the season, because hopefully in the next couple of weeks, once Romero and Van de Ven and Solanke come back, once he's got almost like a full squad to choose from, then we can really judge him. Then we'll see, what he does until the end of the season, and obviously see our progress in the Europa League. I honestly think we have a good chance if we've got all our players fit and he's got those options. I feel we do have a good chance, because on our day with a full squad, yeah, we can lose to anybody, but we have beaten a lot of good teams so far earlier in the season. So I'd like to give him, I'd like to see what he does until the summer, and then, see where we are in the summer. But whether they get rid of Ange and they bring somebody else in, I think one of the guys who was speaking, I think it was Stu, who mentioned about the summer transfer window. I think it's really critical that we get that right as well, no matter who comes in, whether we carry on with Ange or whether we get somebody new.
Orçun, what have you made of the emergence of Jed Spence in this team, and how can you take him out? Because what's going to happen, do you think? Your doggies come back, Pedro Porro, Jed Spence, who's going to end up dropping out? I know Ange will probably say, well, we need to rotate players anyway, but, you always have your preferred 2, don't you?
No, definitely. I think Jed Spence was always, it was because when he first arrived, he arrived with so much promise, and he was already a player that was already in the eyes of a lot of other teams, and apparently a number of teams, were interested in him as well. And then for one reason or another, manager after manager just didn't seem to fancy him, just didn't seem to pick him. I mean, I thought when Ange first came in to Tottenham, I thought that would have been his big chance, and it looked like, I think, you go to all of the preseason stuff, and when they were out in the Far East, I think, when they had the preseason tour, he seemed to be getting a lot of game time, and we thought, oh, maybe we're going to see the best of him now. And then again, for some reason, he kind of seemed to feel foul. So, look, I do get a feeling that probably, once we got into this terrible injury situation that we did earlier in the season, I just got the feeling that maybe Ange just sat down and had a heart-to-heart with him and said, look, listen, we are going through this terrible period, and I've only got you. Udogi's out, and there is no other one. So just go out there, do what show your best. Obviously I haven't got anybody else. I can't drop you, but this is the moment. This is your chance. And if you take it, you're going to be one of my, number one players. Because it almost feels like it was a switch, wasn't it? It just happened just like that overnight, that all of a sudden he started performing and getting it. And maybe it was his attitude, perhaps, maybe on, because obviously there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to see every day. So potentially maybe he was walking around the training ground like he was already, excuse my language, Billy Big Bollocks, kind of, walking around with this kind of attitude that maybe he hadn't quite earned yet. And maybe that was the issue. Maybe the managers felt that he needs to go out there on the pitch and really show it first, on a consistent basis. Then you can, have that kind of maybe attitude. But certainly since he's come into the team, what I've seen of him, again, you go to the away games, Chris, you see it more than we do. Like I've seen a few times from your videos and other videos where he goes up, he's like one of the first players to go up to the away fans. And even when we've lost, he's gone there with Ange, he's put an arm around Ange and stuff like that. I think maybe this season, with what we've been through in the last 3 or 4 months, I think maybe even that has helped him mature a lot, helped him maybe put things in, because you got to remember that although he's not super young, he's still young, he's still becoming a man. And these are the kind of periods where it really sets your character. And I think those are the areas that perhaps maybe he's now shown real development, real progress, that now, as you say, because his performances, I think he's been one of our best players in this, even in the games that we've lost or we've drawn, he's been outstanding. He's outstood as one of the better performers out of all the players, even the, experienced ones. So I would like to see him continue. I think his natural position's a right back anyway. So I think, and Porro, yes, he does really well, but I think I have more confidence in both his attacking abilities and his defensive abilities. And I think he's actually, in terms of that, I would choose him. If I was the manager, I would always choose him over Porro. And obviously, where we have a run of games like back to back, then you can maybe use Porro as the alternative, alternating. And I think we need another, again, I think Stu was talking about it. I agree in the sense that I think we definitely need another left back that's going to challenge Udogi. Because I think Udogi's, some of his performances, I haven't been very impressed with this season. Yes, he's very good going forward, but defensively, I see, weaknesses there. I don't know.
Orchard, but last question for you. Would you consider Porro playing a bit further up the pitch and Jed Spence at right back, so you get them both on at the same time? Because for me, I think that I'd love to see Pedro Porro a bit further up the pitch.
Yeah, why not? No, definitely. I mean, there are players in the history of the game that can play those. I mean, if you think about it, Gareth Bale started as a left back, when he first came to Spurs, and
exactly.
when he was, so, and look, where he's played, once he, broke out as a bit of a superstar. So yeah, why not? Certainly, because again, I think going back to, and I'm sorry I keep going back to Poch years. I mean, Poch was very much the same. He always used to say, he wanted 2 good alternatives in most positions in the team. So I think, like when you look at our, right wing, obviously Johnson seems to be the preference, and I know obviously Kulusevski plays there, but I don't think Kulusevski's got the pace to really be that effective. I mean, his crossing is fantastic when it's on point, but I think we certainly can do with somebody that can also alternate with Johnson as well. So there's probably several areas where, it's nice to have these kind of players who are quite versatile, that can play in numerous positions. But yeah, I think Porro could easily play at right wing or right midfielder, for sure.
Aldrin, you're always such a great guest. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for showing us this wonderful view. What's the weather like out there before you go?
It's sunny today. It's a bit windy. It's a little bit cold, but it is, as you can see, the sun's out today. Last week we had a lot of snow, but yeah, it seems to have. I think we're slowly getting into spring weather. So,
Aldrin, thank you so much, and we'll speak to you again
my
soon.
pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Cheers.
Lovely to speak to you guys. Take
And
care.
you.
Bye-bye.
Craig, do you know what I find amazing? Every single fan show that we do, Pochettino's name comes up.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
Every single one. And most of the time, it's not me or you.
No, look, let's face it, he gave us the best memories over the last, well, as long as I can remember, actually. So.
Right, we're now going to go to the Czech Republic and speak to Steve. Steve, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi guys. Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, Steve, why aren't you on your roof, Steve? Come on, get with it.
If I climbed on my roof, I'd probably fall off it. I don't live in an apartment. I've got a house.
Steve, is there anything in particular that you'd like to speak about, or just give us your general thoughts on Tottenham right now and how you're feeling?
I've got a couple of questions. Do you know the story on Mikey Moore? Why he's been absent from the first team? Because there was a rumour from Vernon or somebody saying that he had an injury, a knock. Do you know anything about Mikey Moore?
I don't know anything about a knock, but I did see or hear rumours about it was either going to be Timo Werner or Mikey Moore on the sub bench the other night, and they went with Timo Werner. And I think this, or from what I was told, it was more of a rotation thing yet again.
All right, yeah. Okay, that answers that. I think with a lot of Spurs fans, I was horrified when that is the word I use, I'm afraid, for Werner coming on again. Anyway, we'll move on. That answers that question.
Well, I tell you, Steve, I said this on the podcast the other day. Timo Werner came on, and I could have probably put out a very funny video, but I think it would have been quite controversial, and I didn't really want to dig out Timo Werner. But the second Timo Werner came on, a lot of people walked out the door. Yeah.
So, okay. Another player in a different way. Is Johnson doing enough for you guys? I know he's our top goal scorer, but he's a winger. And in the game against Manchester City, I watched the game, he produced one. It was a good cross. Perhaps Sonny should have taken it and it would have been an assist. But apart from that, for me, he was missing again. You know what I mean? It's okay knocking in the goals at the far post, which is fine and a very good part of his game. But that's all he does, isn't it? He doesn't really seem to chase back. I just want your opinion if you're happy with him, is his play. Yeah,
I said that on the pod after the game Wednesday, Steve, and okay. I very similar opinion. I wasn't impressed with his first half performance, and probably he wasn't impressed with his first half. He just looked at times like he was running through treacle. You know, this player that's supposed to be one of the fastest in the Premiership. I don't know. I don't know if is he protecting his hamstrings or something. He just doesn't seem to run at full pelt. I know some players look like they're not moving very quickly when in fact they are. I get that, but I don't know. I'm still kind of torn. I think he's a great potential, good finisher at the far. I mean, he's great at getting in those positions, and
you've got to time your runs,
knocking the goals in. But I think he needs somebody to push him. Is what I'd say as well.
That's what I mean. Yeah, it's a nice idea you had there about Porro playing further up the field because his defensive play is pretty bad. It seems to start with most teams down that side, their left wing, and Porro a bit disappointed. I mean,
they do seem to attack that side. It's not just one team; it's a lot of teams.
I'm saying, nearly every game.
A
lot of space.
Steve, the thing that I'd say about Brennan Johnson, and I said this the other day as well, is that the fact that he is always getting in that right position of getting those tap-ins is really, really fantastic. But in terms of crossing and in terms of all-round play, I do think that we need to see improvement. But I think that we could say that about a lot of players. There needs to be improvement. But I think Ange Postecoglou all season, certainly these last few months, I know Brennan Johnson spent that time out injured as well, is that we need to see more. I know he said about injuries, but we do need to see more from a lot of players.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of them are coming back from time out through injuries, etc. So how much time do they need to get back to full speed? I don't know. But obviously, I'm very happy with a lot of other players, though, the youngsters that keep getting mentioned. So another question I've got is, it's obviously come up before and you've mentioned it. We're talking about getting a 6 in the transfer window in the summer, and we need one. But I mean, Archie Gray just seems to me to be going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
And so if and when Romero and Van der Ven are back, and you've got basically your fullback sorted out, where are you going to play Archie Gray? You can't not play him, in my opinion. He has to start. So in your opinion, my idea is that he would be the 6, although he's very young. He's very extremely talented. So what's your opinion on that?
Only Ange Postecoglou will answer that one, and I doubt he'll answer it in a press conference either, given how he's answered these sorts of questions before. My only issue with Archie Gray is when you are a versatile player. Sometimes we have seen in the past when you are a versatile player, these players then go on the sub bench because the manager then feels, well, right, I could fit him in, X, Y, and Z areas.
Yeah, what you're saying. Yeah.
And when you don't actually have a position, that's why I would love to see Archie Gray in midfield sooner rather than later, so he can claim that spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. I feel exactly the same. I think I'd love to see a run of games where he's in there. You can't judge it on one. You can't judge it on half hour when he's slotted in there if he takes, I don't know, Bentancur off, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see him start in there because when he was at Leeds, I don't know if anybody watched Leeds when he was at Leeds, he was phenomenal in that position. And very, very good player.
But it certainly looks like, Steve, I know Ange joked about it the other day saying, well, if we need a new goalkeeper, Archie Gray can go there. It just appears wherever Archie Gray plays, he will do a job. He's that good. And many congratulations to him, by the way, of winning the Young Footballer of the Year award at the London Football Awards. Fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic achievement. Yeah, fantastic. So moving on to, if I can,
go on.
The Europa League. I think we can go all the way. I wouldn't stick my neck out and say we'll win it. I've got a horrible feeling. I think you mentioned, or somebody else mentioned, not on this program, but in the past, that we'll probably get to the final with Atletico Bilbao in Bilbao, and they'll be at home, and that'll be a tall order. But I don't know if we get the players back. As I said, Romero and Van der Ven, Spencer's playing, and Bergwijn plays well. I think we can go all the way. Obviously, I hope so as a Spurs fan, but like someone said earlier as well, it's the hope that kills you. But I'm long enough in the tooth to be able to handle these seasons.
The thing is, though, Steve, if you go all the way to the final and you win the trophy, it can't be easy. It's never, ever going to be easy. Like these away games, leading up to the final, if we got there, they're going to be very, very difficult. Away games in Europe, no matter who you're playing, are very, very difficult.
Yeah, we've seen that, haven't we, time and time again, and this season as well. But looking at that last performance, okay, it was virtually a completely different team we had to put out. We beat them 1-0 in the league stages. I mean, now the team we've got, if everyone's fit, is just such a different team from the keeper to the. I think what's his name came on in the later stages of the game. Mikey Moore had a man of the match. Spence is just kicking on all the time. I'm really confident, at least as Craig was saying, we should get past Alkmaar, and that might give us a bit of confidence going into the next stage. Definitely. Yeah.
And obviously, as we're told that Chelsea would be Chelsea that get the nod over us to play their second leg at home rather than us. I never actually saw Chelsea's draw, Chris. To be honest, I know we were talking about it the other night. I didn't know how they were. Were they drawn out to play the next round? So the quarterfinal, if they progress, were they drawn to play the second leg at home anyway? Or
yes, I think it has worked out that way. So if we were both to progress in the competition in those latter stages, then it would be that Chelsea would play their home legs second, and then we would be away.
I thought they were drawn though, because we know we're supposed to be away second leg, quarter and semi anyway, don't we? Mm-hmm. It's not like it's not like decided later on. It's already decided, isn't it? That's where the confusion came in for me.
Okay.
From what I read, it was that they would have their fixtures reversed, so both teams would not be playing at home on the same day.
Night. Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm that confident. I've actually managed to get myself a ticket for the home leg. I can't often come over from Czech to London and get tickets, but I shall be there on the home leg.
Well, for the AZ.
Against AZ, yeah. So might bump into you somewhere in the stadium or in the pub.
We'll make sure of it, Steve. Let's meet for a beer. Absolutely. Craig will be there as well.
Okay, I'll send you an email or something.
Absolutely. Yes, well, we'll see you there. Steve, have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us yet again. And thank you so much for all of your support on the channel. You're wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for the programme. It's fantastic, both of you. Have a good weekend, guys.
Steve, where are you sitting? What stand are you sitting in, quickly?
I haven't looked at the ticket yet, to be honest. I think I'm in the East stand. Is it?
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have a long walk round to where Chris is, and I'm in the South, so...
The South stand, yeah.
Yeah,
we'll meet up at the longest bar in the South Stand, Steve. We'll meet you there. I'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, we'll communicate. We'll be there. Come have a high water. I'll get there.
Brilliant, Steve. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon. Cheers.
Thanks,
Thank you, guys. All the best. Cheers now.
See ya.
Right, we're now going to go to John in Essex. John, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. You too?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, John. Thanks so much for joining us. John, I know you're one of our positive Spurs fans. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I was the guy who, when I last spoke to you, I was ripped the contract up for Ange and give him a 5-year one, which took you all by surprise. Because I love what he's trying to do at the club. But just quickly, while it's on my mind, Steve, before, with regards to Johnson, me and Steve are getting on in life. And I agree with what he said. In our day, a winger, every opportunity he got, he would take the full back on and either put a cross in or cut in and have a one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Johnson can't do that. He doesn't even try. I don't think he's got the skill to be able to take a defender on with a bit of trickery. He's not that sort of winger. Doku, for me, he's a proper winger. He will take on 2 players, let alone 1.
Your player.
And the other night, I said to my daughter, if they just keep feeding Doku, we will get hammered. Because another thing, and what Craig was saying about Poro, I think he's only got a future at Tottenham if he plays further up. I think we've conceded so many goals this season from his side. You know, he lets the players run at him and he backs off. They either cut inside and have a shot to the far post or across to the far post, or they take it down the line and put a crossover. I just don't think he's good enough defensively. And with Jed Spence, after watching him for an hour in his very first game, I was on the Barnaby show and I said he should be our right back instead of Poro. If Dog is fit and on form at left back, I would have Spence at right back. And what Craig said, you know, I think he's good going forward, Poro. He's got a lot to offer. You know, he's set up a couple of great goals with pinpoint balls, 30-yard balls through over the defence. But as a defender, we're not going to do anything if he's our right back. I'm not got no confidence in him at all.
John, what do you think it will make a massive difference when Van der Ven and Romero come back? Do you think that'll affect because for me, straight down that spine of the team, Solanke, Van der Ven, Romero.
Oh, definitely. We'll be a completely different team when they are back. More so, I prefer Van der Ven. Romero, I loved him at the beginning, and then to be honest, I think he's a little bit overrated, Romero, with his positioning. He's been caught out a few times. Van der Ven, I can't hear a bad word about him. I think he's the only player who's got the potential to be a world-class player in our team. And that's where we are at the moment, I think. We haven't got what I call world-class. You know, world-class for me is your Harry Kane, your Salah, De Bruyne in his prime. We haven't got a world-class player. I think we've got very good players, and I think when everyone's fit, we have got 2 very good players for practically every position now.
Yeah.
And we might be able to win things. You know, if you haven't got too many weaknesses, you can win things without a world-class player. But obviously, if you had one or two, it would be a massive help.
I think that world class, it annoys me actually when people say world class. I think it's bandied around far too much.
Yeah,
for me, a world class player is if you're saying you was putting in a world 23, right, a squad. So you've got 3 goalkeepers, like you're setting up for a tournament, right? So you've got 2 players in each position. You kind of get in to saying it was left wing, for example. You got Mbappe and I don't know. Vinicius Junior or something. So there's 2. There's 2 for each position, and that's it, because it's just banded around too much.
Yeah, definitely.
The thing is, world class, you've got to be a game changer. You've got to be an impact player every single game. How many of those exist?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why it should be limited. It's a limited thing for
very few. Yeah. John, do you think Christian Romero will be a Spurs player next season?
Yeah, I'll be honest now, I never normally sit on the fence, but I think it's 50-50. And for me, and that's what I'm trying to say, if we got a decent enough offer, I wouldn't be gutted if we didn't have him. I really wouldn't. I would if it was Van der Ven. I would be completely gutted, but not with Romero. I want him to stay, but like I say, I wouldn't be too disappointed if we got decent money for him. I've been quite impressed with Danson since he's come in, and whether he does or not, like I say, I prefer him to, but it wouldn't be the end of the world for me if he wasn't. I think he'll still be with us. If gun at my head, I'll say he'll be starting next season, and I pray that Angie's as well, because I think we've got a very young team. A few of them players he's brought in from the start. You know, your Archie Gray, Bergville, and I wouldn't want to see another guy come in and try and change them about. And with Ange, he knows what they can do, what they can't do at the moment, and I think he's the man to bring them on. And I said again, I think to you two a couple of months ago, I broke this season off with the injuries. I cannot wait until the start of next season. You know, and I said that 2 months ago. You know, it's very, very early to be thinking of next season. But that's all I'm looking forward to. I think we've got a chance in the Europa, only if Solanke's back. I think it mainly rests on him. I'm still would be too gutted. I'm half happy with the defence without Romero and Van der Ven. If they're not there, I still think we've got a chance without them. Whereas I don't think we have without Solanke. I really don't. You know, the goals he can get and the pressing that he does. You know, Tell's playing now. You can't rate him until he's had 10, 12 games. You know, he's 9. You know, I've seen.
I agree.
Spurs fans saying he's crap and he's done nothing. You know, he's a 19-year-old kid coming from Germany. I think first game he come on against Liverpool. You know, one of the best teams in Europe. We don't know how we play, tactics. And you can't criticise him at the moment. It's going to take him time.
We live in such a critical world, though, John, don't we?
Yeah, and there's no patience. Like I said before, for me, any manager's got to have 3 or 4 years. If he's good enough, if you think the manager is good enough for you to sign him, and this is any team, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, anyone, if you are going to give a manager a contract, I think you've got to give them time. You've got to give them time to get the team that they want playing and the manager wants them to play. You can't do it overnight. It's impossible.
John, last question for you. There was rumours in the press, and I stress it's only rumours, that Bayern Munich wanted to sign Heung-min Son in the summer. Would you let Heung-min Son go to Bayern Munich if it meant Harry Kane coming back?
Oh, never going to happen.
Yeah, I would. I would. I love Son, and again, the people that criticise him.
Don't entertain that question, John.
It's only because he's your favourite player.
I
don't want
to see him. Kane's not coming back this summer, Craig. Come on.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think Tottenham and Harry Kane were right to let Harry Kane. I mean, the terrible thing for Kane and Son is in their prime, they're both world class for me. And for them to not win a trophy in their career is absolutely criminal.
Yeah,
absolutely
I agree.
Criminal. So I would be happy if Son went somewhere and won a trophy. If he couldn't get one at Tottenham, then I'll be more than happy. He deserves a trophy, just the same as Kane.
Yeah. John, thank you so much for joining us yet again. I know you're a big supporter of the show, so thanks so much for all of your input, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, we'll do. Great show. Thanks very much.
Cheers, John.
Cheers. Bye.
Harry Kane coming back. Where did that come from?
You never know. I might
Just
have
one of your dreamy questions.
You never know. Some of the things though. He will be back. I'm absolutely convinced one day he'll be.
Let's see what Lewis thinks. Lewis, is Harry Kane coming back this summer?
Not this summer, no. I think he will come back, but no, I don't think so.
Lewis, how are you anyway?
Bundesliga. He'll win the Bundesliga. He'll have that trophy in the cabinet. So I think he will have banished that demon personally. But there you go. Yes,
I'm Lewis, very well. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. I'm kind of glad actually that we haven't got a game this weekend. It gives more time for these Spurs players to come back. We've only got 4 games in the month of March, so it seems quite a quiet month. And then, as Craig said, it's international break. Then we play Chelsea at the start of April. How are you feeling about the next 4 games? Of course, AZ, 2 of them, home and away.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, is it? It never is, these sort of European games. I always find the sort of lesser known teams always seem to be the ones that we sort of struggle against, we could have got Real Sociedad, and I suppose out the 2 that sort of seems the favourable one, but none of these teams are easy to beat. That's the problem when you go in Europe, and it's our last chance of the season, really, isn't it? So there's even more pressure on the game. So but hopefully we're getting players back, seeing signs that things are going to improve when they come back. So, I'm still hopeful, and I think we'll make it through.
Sorry, I was on mute. How important is it for Tottenham, Lewis, to progress in this Europa? Because we've said before, it's kind of like feels all eggs in that basket, and the club are obviously going to want European football next season. Do you think Ange Postecoglou's future rides on if he wins the Europa League, or do you think they're going to stick with him for another year regardless?
I think they'll still stick with him, to be honest. I think obviously they see a lot more behind the scenes than what we do. They must have seen the positive impact that he instantly had on the club when he came in. We was in a right mess and he sorted that out. I think with all the injuries and that, it has given him it's bided his time a lot more. I think if we had a full strength squad, I think it might be looked at differently. But any team would struggle, with the amount of injuries. I think particularly the way we play, we have to have our best players out there. We haven't got the luxury of having, like Man City having billions of pounds worth of players on the bench. Even when we had a fully fit squad, we still had youngsters on the bench. So, obviously we've had a few new additions that strengthened the team. So I think once everyone's back fit, I think we can really judge them. But I think at the moment it's way too soon to sort of say that he's not doing a great job. And like Chris says, we flip, the fans flip-flop all the time over him. We get a result, and they lay off a bit. Like you said, they don't give him the praise he deserves. But if we lose, it's all doom and gloom, and everyone's crying over it for weeks. And it is frustrating. It's really annoying at the moment. Obviously, we're not getting the results that you'd expect. But the Man City game, first half, I thought we were pretty awful. Second half, we started to play better. But yeah, we just got to stick with it. But it just feels like it's been a really long season, doesn't it?
Lewis, I completely get all of the injuries, but it is frustrating to a point, especially this season where, even when we've had a fairly fully fit squad, it just don't appear that we play well for the full 90 minutes. What do you put that down to? I know a lot of people, like you've mentioned and like you've touched on there about, people getting on Andrew's back. Is that down to Ange Postecoglou? Is it down to the players? Is it another reason? You probably mentioned that, you probably heard me mention about the stadium being so quiet on Wednesday night against Manchester
Yeah.
City. It was so flat, the atmosphere.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that. I don't know what was going on there. It was really quiet because I kept thinking, is that they put the fans on mute? You know, it was like you can hear anything in there. You know, and you're thinking, come on, this is against City. You know, which we normally have a result against. And I think, you know, I think the last game I went to was against City, and you know, everyone was up for it. You know, in the stadium, and there was a real atmosphere, but it just seemed to be flat. And the players, I don't know what it is. It's almost like they come out not raring for it, which is weird because that's normally on the manager really to get them sort of fired up for it, you know. And it always seems, I don't know about you, you sort of wait for the half-time whistle to go, and you think, right, they're going to get a rocket now. He's going to have a right, you know, go at them. And normally, second half, they'll come out with a better attitude. I just don't get it. But we used to have that under Conte, didn't we? We used to be like rubbish first half and then decent second half. And I think it was the other way round with Mourinho, and you can't seem to get it right. It's just really annoying. I don't know what it is, to be honest.
Lewis, last question for you. Score prediction for the AZ away game on Thursday, because as I keep saying, and as I've said for many, many years, European aways are not easy games. The AZ one on Thursday, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking it's going to be a scrappy 2-1 win. Personally.
That'd be good. That'd be good.
I'll take that. I'll take a result. I just want a result. That's all. But I don't think it's going to be easy. I think they might score early, and we might think, oh, here we go. You know, so it always seems to happen, doesn't it?
Are you in that positive camp that Spurs can go all the way and lift that trophy?
Well, I think we get through this game. It's got to build momentum, haven't you? The team, the players have got to start believing that they can do it. I think the managers, obviously, he's won trophies, you know. So yeah, I mean, I'm positive. I think once we get past this game, I think as each game goes, just because we've been here before, haven't we? You know, so. Yeah.
Well, Lewis, I know a number of you South Dorset Spurs boys will be out in Amsterdam on Thursday, and I'm going to look forward to catching up with a lot of those guys. Have a great weekend, and thanks so much for all of your support on the channel, and we'll speak to you soon.
Okay, take care. Cheers, Chris.
Cheers,
Lewis.
See you.
Right, we're now going to go to Dennis, and I know I am aware that we are running a little bit behind, so apologies, but we can talk about Tottenham all day long. Dennis, great to have you here. How are you?
Morning, Chris. Morning, Craig. How are you both?
Very good, Dennis. Dennis, is there anything in particular that you'd like to speak about this morning?
Well, firstly, I agree 100% with Craig. I'm afraid to say, Chris, I'd have Harry Kane back tomorrow. So would I. But
he's not coming back.
We've been talking, or this morning, or in the previous shows, you've been talking about injuries. I would just like to take you back. You gentlemen won't remember 1965-66. Liverpool won the Division 1, got to the Champions Winners' Cup final, although they lost. In that season, they used 14 players. One of the players got interviewed. I can't remember who it was. And he actually said, we got off the pitch after a game. The doctor, they didn't have a full medical squad team then. Doctor would say, any injuries? Half the players came off there with injuries. They dared not say we had an injury. Yeah. If they got injured, they knew they were out the team. They would never get back into it. Fast forward to Tottenham. Do you guys think that the injuries we've got at the moment, all of them are actually genuine, that they can't play, or is it that the manager doesn't want them to play because he's got other ideas? How do you guys think?
I think it's a complete mixture, if I'm honest, Dennis. I found it absolutely fascinating to watch the Amazon documentary, because I think a lot of people forget how many injuries we had under Jose Mourinho as well. And the sports science guys always got involved. Jose Mourinho always said about, are the players fit? Are they available? And the sports science guys would always say no. And it was very, very frustrating to the managers. And I feel like in the past, as you've mentioned there, and I don't want to name drop, but I remember talking at length to Cliff Jones and him saying that, the Spurs players would play like on Christmas Day, then they'd play on Boxing Day, then they'd play like on the 28th. They'd be playing like 3 games in the space of like 4 or 5 days. and players used to just get on with it. And a lot of players would then carry knocks, but they would just get on with it. But in today's day, in 2025, that is simply not the case. They are not allowed to do that because there are so many analysis going on, and the sports science guys put a stop to a lot of these players actually playing, although the player says, yeah, I'm available, or the manager says, I want him to play. A lot of the time, those sports science guys get involved and say, no, you're not. That's the issue.
So where do you guys stand then when a manager, or not just at Tottenham, but other clubs say 2 games a week is far too much? I mean, I know they train. That's 3 hours. That's 3 hours in a week they play.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys been to work, do 40 hours a week. I mean, come on. I mean, have they?
The thing is, though, Dennis, Craig and I sit at desks all day, and these players are running around, at full speed, every day. So it's a little bit different. But I get exactly what you mean, and I get the argument of a lot of fans from other clubs saying, "Well, we do it," and but a lot of the other teams have really big squads. They have a lot bigger squads than Tottenham. And this is why I kept banging on about it in the summer transfer window, saying that we need another couple of players. And I know we could probably do a show just on this subject alone. I've always felt that no matter what season it is, no matter what summer it is, no matter what manager we've had, we've always been 1 or 2 players away from doing something special or adding that real bit of quality, going into a season. And I feel like, this season is no different. That's why, again, I'll say it, and I feel like a broken record every summer I say it. It's a big summer coming up, in terms of additions, because when you want to play at such a high intensity like Ange Postecoglou wants to play, you need players fit and available, and you need that depth. You need that fantastic squad. You need those players to come off the bench and make a real impact. And as I said earlier, be game changers. That is exactly what you need. We are seeing it now. The players are coming back, but it is so important. That quality is so important.
Agreed. And another point, Chris, we talked about the atmosphere at Man City, which was dead. Your music, when you open the show and you have your background, why don't Tottenham have something similar for the 5 minutes before, a similar song or sound that builds up the atmosphere? I mean, it is, well, we have the guy on the trumpet, which is fine, but the 5 to 10 minutes before, it needs a build up. The atmosphere will be much better. I don't know what you think about it.
No, do you know what? I my thoughts on that, I 100% agree. And it's amazing what music can do to people, I'm not saying we should have the Rocky theme or anything like that, a bit cheesy, as much as I love Rocky. But like whenever I listen to a Newcastle home game, they've got Mark Knopfler's Going Home theme, and they time it just before kickoff. And I just think that's a fantastic bit of music anyway. And it's not like an inspirational sort of bit of music like Sunderland used to have the Romeo and Juliet theme, the classical piece. But it's something about that tune that the crowd absolutely love. And they don't kick off until it finishes. And when that final and then the referee blows his whistle and the crowd go mental. I miss Spurs having something like that. I really do, because we used to have it.
Yeah, definitely. We talked about Klinsmann earlier. The game against Wimbledon is my favourite all-time game that I went there. The atmosphere and emotion, because we were what, 3rd from bottom, 4th from bottom, I can't remember where we were. But we were talking. Craig said we take on world-class players too much. We build them all up. Klinsmann was a world-class player, which brings me on to another player which is still playing. Luka Modric, without doubt. If we had kept him, we were saying about Son's never won a trophy, Kane's never won a trophy. Do you guys think, with Modric in that side, do you think we would have won a trophy?
Yeah, but then I've said many times as well, Dennis, that the club have got to match the ambition of some of these players.
Which they don't.
Which is really frustrating. And I feel like the comments, this is why I asked John earlier about, do you think that Christian Romero would be a Spurs player? Because, you know, he's basically come out and questioned the ambition of the board and the football club recently, which I know the club wouldn't have liked. And that's going to be interesting, because I always speak on this channel year after year about progression and about ambition, and we all want to see it as Spurs fans. We all want to see the best players. I get what Ange Postecoglou's trying to do. He's brought a lot of these young players, very talented players like Archie Gray, Bergvall. You know, we could go on. Jed Spence, the emergence of him this season, you know, it's great. There are a lot of positives, but we also need those game-changing players and those ready-made players to walk into this team and this squad to make a real impact for us to progress and move as a football club. But someone like Luka Modric, what a player. What a player at nearly 40 years old, carrying on playing for Real Madrid at the very, very highest level. You know, it's unbelievable. I'd love to see players like that in our football team again. Agreed.
So I know I've only got 6 minutes, and I know.
Go on, carry on, Den. We're running behind. I feel like I could talk to you lot for all day. I know Craig's got to probably go out, and so have I. But go on, carry on.
Loyalty points, or was the loyalty scheme? Funny enough,
they're now called ticketing points. They're not loyalty points anymore.
I know. Which I was going to come to. We've got a WhatsApp group with all Spurs fans on that, friends of mine, and one of the guys' comments: shall we book flights for the 20th to the 22nd of May this year to Bilbao?
Yeah.
And I put on there, rather cheekily, I said, there's more chance of us getting to the final than there will be of me getting a ticket. Now, I've been a season ticket holder for 44 years. We used to get 25 points, you know, for being a season ticket holder. Don't get that anymore. How do you think it's a fair system that they've got working at the moment? Because I used to have about 600 points, so I'm down to 158 now. I'm of an age where I can't go to these away games. Like, gladly you go, Chris, and I don't know, Craig, if you go. But do you think it's a fair system, the way it is now, that I won't be able to get a ticket for Bilbao? I know that.
Yeah. I think Craig would probably be better answering this than I would, because I go to every game, which sometimes frustrates people. However, I have had the argument with people as well that if Spurs were in League Two and we were playing Rochdale on a Tuesday night, I would be there.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that I know, friends, family, even, they wouldn't be there. So, you know, the word loyalty, they've taken it out, because I think a lot of people from abroad, you know, we have a lot of people from all around the world on this show and on this channel, but a lot of people around the world complained and said, well, I'm a loyal fan. You know, it doesn't matter whether I sit in my chair at home watching Spurs at 2:30 a.m. You know, am I any more loyal than, or is anyone more loyal going to the game than I am sitting, you know, watching the TV at 2:30 in the morning? You know, I can't answer that. Everyone I meet all around the world, you know, I go to America and people are getting up at ridiculous hours to watch Spurs on the TV. Would I do that? I'm not sure I would, actually. You know, and then go to work, you know, 7, 8 a.m., you know, having been in the pub. So everyone supports the club differently. But loyalty points, Craig, do you want to answer that one? Because I feel like, you know, recently as well, that I've spoken to the trust and I speak to people at the fan advisory board. This is probably a subject for them, Dennis, to talk to them about as well, because they're always looking to change it. And I know that some fans, you know, get the tickets, they don't go, they pass it on to others, you know. So it frustrates people like you that then don't get a ticket. But Craig, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll fully admit, I don't know what the criteria is, because I'm not a season ticket holder or, you know, points. I'm just a One Hotspur member, and it's difficult enough for me to get tickets. I like to go with the family, so I need 4 every time I go. I mean, I could always get tickets just for myself if I wanted to go every game, but I do like to go with the family, so it's a bit different for me. But I would say if people do go to every game, personally, I think they should be given priority anyway. But there's definitely arguments to say, and who am I to say that somebody, like Chris said, getting up at 2 a.m. to watch Spurs on their telly, 3 o'clock. I know we've got Aussies in here that I think Blake's coming on later. I'm sure he's got up at stupid o'clock to watch games, you know. So and miss work and Christ knows what else. So it's a really difficult one, and it's almost a personal opinion on each of it. And I don't think there's any right and wrong answers. But the club do seem to need to look at the ticketing allocations and how the point system works, because obviously some fans are feeling a bit aggrieved about certain things, like yourself, you know.
Yeah.
Dennis, can I ask, are you in the UK?
Oh yeah, I live.
Yeah.
I'm 40 miles from Tottenham, so we travel all the time. 40 miles Tottenham. Yeah.
What I'd probably say to you is, obviously, I know a lot of people dotted all around the world that support Spurs, and most of them are connected or a member of an official supporters club. And I know a lot of people also in the UK who are joined to a official supporters group. It might be worth you joining one of them, because a lot of the official supporters groups do have access to tickets, and they get a lot of tickets given for certain games, home games included. So it might be worth joining one of those. And as I said, any advice or any questions about tickets, especially away ones, contact the trust, and also you can be a member of the trust. I think off the top of my head, it's £10 a year, and then you get all of these newsletters, and you get lots of information, which is very, very useful. And also the fan advisory board. You know, there are a lot of people who represent a season ticket holder, a member, women season ticket holders, etc. And if you ever have any questions, you can email them directly, your representative. So they should be very helpful.
That's very, very good of you, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Good. I'll do that.
Dennis, I feel like I could talk to you all day, so we've got to have you back on the channel very soon. So thank.
I've got a list that I was going to go through about a quarter of the way through.
Craig next time.
Craig messaged me 10 minutes ago and said, "Chris, we're running really behind." And I'm like, "Yes,
Sorry.
I know, but when you guys come on, I just love to talk." So apologies. So
Sorry.
Dennis, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Love to hear from you guys again soon. Thank you.
Cheers, Dennis. Cheers.
Bye, Craig.
Cheers.
Craig, apologies. We are running behind. Apologies. I did say it would be a 2-hour show. I'm still hoping it's going to be a 2-hour show. We're now going to go to Reza. Reza, have you got your camera on, or should we go to somewhere else? We'll come back to Reza. We'll go to Blake. We'll go to Blake in Adelaide, Australia. Blake, how are you?
Good evening, gents. How are we going?
Good
Great
evening.
To see you both. It's much better circumstances than last time I came on. I think it was a 4-0 defeat to Liverpool. But great to see you both. You well?
All good, Blake. How are you feeling right now? Because as I mentioned to Craig earlier, you know, going out of those 2 cup competitions, of course, you were on the Liverpool podcast. Apologies about that. And then, of course, we went on a run, 3 Premier League wins, losing then to Man City. We've still got the Europa League left. Can we hope to get a European spot via the league? I'm not so sure. We'd have to go on a really good run, fingers crossed. But how are you feeling?
Yeah, honestly, I'm back to positivity. Under Ricky J Norwood from down under, basically. Honestly, I think it's we've turned a corner here in recent times. I think the defeat to Man City, there were a lot of positives in that, and obviously the 3 games prior to that were all victories in the league, and I think that was a really good momentum build towards what we can do in Europe as well. I think we've really struck luck with the draw as well. I think that there's a really good chance to take it up to all the teams on that side of the draw. And I personally think, obviously we've been flagged as one of the favourites to win Europa, but Man United have got a very tough gig. I think I kind of rate Real Sociedad in a way, because I think that's going to be a really tough fixture for them. If they have an early exit from the cup, it really opens things up for us, I feel. And we're starting to get the players back. We're starting to get guys fit and healthy, getting minutes in the legs. Captain Sonny, I came on that show and defended him. And I think he's one of those players now that he desperately needs that 60 to 70 minutes every so often. There's no possible way at his age that he can be playing 180 minutes a week. plus and maintain a really good standard. So like we saw in the game against Man United, he really took it to him, and he's been fantastic over the last little while. So I think the positive Blake is back, and it's great to see so many fans sort of getting back to level-headedness, because there was like even myself, I was getting really, really anxious and antsy about our league position and all that kind of stuff. But now it feels like it's quite settled. We can try and push up the table and get some results, but obviously put as many eggs in that basket for Europe as we possibly can.
What happens, Blake, if we go out of Europa, God forbid? I mean, because obviously, like you said there, all the eggs seem to be in the Europa basket.
Well, Harry Kane's coming back, isn't he, Craig?
Yeah, I'll remind you of that when he signs in the summer. I'm not going to say a word. I'm going to wait for the apology text.
You were waiting a long time.
I forgot what I was saying now. Oh yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. So, how far up the table could Spurs realistically finish?
Yeah, I actually don't believe that it's going to be a big ask to get into a European spot. I feel from eighth onward. Obviously how the coefficient works, it could be eighth, but I do think it's a little bit of a stretch with the games that we've got left, which is why I think obviously we're going after Europa. But I always said to mates and to others throughout this season, I thought if we end up having a mid-table finish, but one Europa, I'll be really happy. If it was a mid-table finish, I haven't thought of that scenario myself yet, but I don't think it was anything. We couldn't have achieved any more than that, just given the circumstances around the injuries throughout the season, and obviously we've still got a few here and there, but it's not ideal. And if we're talking in the sense of what that means for Ange's future, I'm not so sure that ENIC would put up with a mid-table finish with no trophies, being brutally honest, because that's big money that you're missing out on by not qualifying for Europe. And look at how much money Aston Villa has made just by making the round of 16 in the Champions League. It's hundreds of millions of dollars, and that's money that they would see that they're missing out on. So I just hope they wouldn't make a decision based on money. But at the end of the day, football's a business as well, so that's something to consider too.
I tell you what, it was a weird season last year not having European football. I definitely don't want that again next year. So let's either hope that we can get a European spot via the league or win the Europa League, certainly. Blake, another guy that I'd like to talk about, and that is goalkeeper Vicario. Since coming back, he looks like a different person. And I say that as a personality, because as soon as we conceded that goal on Wednesday night, Erling Haaland, he's running out, he was trying to encourage teammates, he was shouting at some, talking to others, and the leadership from him, he just seems to be completely different since he's come back.
He's been absolutely unbelievable, to be honest. And when we signed Kinski, I thought, okay, like this might be a bit of competition for spots, but I don't see that same level of leadership. I certainly think there's a future captain there. I think once Sonny cannot be the leader of this team anymore, I think the obvious choice is Vicario. It works, Hugo Lloris was our previous captain in between the sticks, and that seemed to work pretty well. But Vicario is another level with his leadership, and I still remember his debut interview when he signed for the club. It was like, I was just about willing to give my left arm to get to England and to play for Tottenham Hotspur, and the sacrifice that I'd make to be at this club. They're the players you want to get through the door, not guys that feel like they're doing the club a favour by coming. You want guys that blood, sweat, and tears into everything that they do, and that's certainly the vibe I get from Vicario. And we're a much better side. We're much more assured when he's in there. So, yeah, I certainly think he's been a revelation for our team and solidifying the defence. There's a lot to like there for sure. So yeah.
Blake, last question for you. How do you think this game's going to go against AZ? Give us a score prediction.
Look, I actually didn't think we played that well against them last time in the fixture at home. It was a 1-0 win they went down to 10 men sort of at that 80th minute mark, of course. But I'm going to go a 2-1 win away from home. I think we'll manage to score a couple and get ahead. But yeah, that's my prediction for now. So yeah, I think AZ Alkmaar, they're a tough side. Like, you know, they're not to be underestimated. And yeah, I certainly think we've still got to put our best foot forward. I'm hoping that Van der Ven and Romero returning. Hopefully Solanke's a sneaky chance too. That would add a lot of depth to us already improving squad. And I think that, you know, it could even be a 2 or 3-1 margin if we get those guys back. And yeah. Oh, a quick separate note before I take off, gents. Great work as always on the show. But there's actually a movie coming out called Ange and the Boss here in Australia. So it's a doco series about when Puskás was managing South Melbourne. So I'll certainly keep you updated with that movie doco, and yeah, maybe have a chat about it soon with you guys.
Nice.
Absolutely. Thank you, Blake. What's the weather like over there at the minute?
Oh, pretty good. Yeah, we had a 30-degree day. Got the back door open. It's like, you know, 10 o'clock at night nearly, and it's still beautiful weather. So sorry to rub it into everyone in the UK, but yeah, it's nice weather at this time of year for sure.
Blake, thank you so much. You're always such a great guest, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Greatly appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
Cheers. Thanks, Blake.
See you guys. Bye.
Ta-ra.
We're now going to go to somewhere equally as hot. We're going to go to Malta. We're going to go to Melvin. Melvin, how are you?
I'm well, Chris. Hey, Craig. How are you guys?
Hello, Melvin.
All good, Melvin. All good. How are you feeling, Melvin, right now?
I'm well. I'm happy in some aspects of the club, of the team. Not so happy about some things, like, you know, all Spurs fans. But, you know, overall, I think the idea of the prospect of us going far in the Europa League, you know, makes me happy, makes me excited. You know, I'm worried about some teams in the Europa League, but I think we can get there. It's going to be an interesting end to the season. I know some people were saying, because I've been listening nearly since the beginning, that, you know, the season is a write-off, but I don't think Ange sees it that way. I think even Kulusevski said he wants to, you know, win the Europa League. We have some quality in the team. You know, we have players. We have Romero to come back. I really feel the fans have forgotten how good Romero can be. I mean, last season he scored 5 Premier League goals. Some of them, you know, one of them was against Arsenal. He can be a threat from corners. He can be really good on the ball, very good defensively. Him next to Denso would be very, very strong, very aggressive, you know, back line. Solanke coming back will be a very big difference. With the lineup and the team, you know, it takes time. I said in August, I thought we won't click until January, February. But we had injuries, so I think that statement's going to be delayed, because I thought the players would need time to gel and click, and we're still seeing element of lack of game time with our attacking players in the final third. I mean, against City we should have scored, but the lack of playing time together showed. There was a bit of hesitation in the final third with the ball. I think the recruitment has been really good. I'm delighted with a lot of players that we've bought. I mean, Danso, I mentioned him, Kinski on the bench. With Tell, I think he's still young, but he's very, very promising. The most player I'm happy with at the moment is Archie Gray. I just think he's insane. It's just I saw him against City, and I kept an eye on him, and how he was gliding with the ball, and Haaland was pressing him, and the boy was just. Honestly, I have chills talking about Archie Gray. The player is absolutely brilliant. We spent 40 million on an 18-year-old. I don't think Tottenham Hotspur has ever done anything like that. I think the recruitment and how they picked him, and how we fought to get him, because he was wanted by other clubs, and we did beat other clubs to get him. I think it's brilliant, and I think the club will continue to do this. I think there's already signs of us talking to Dibbling, and my personal favorite will be the boy from Crystal Palace, Wharton, but we'll see. I think the club has a strategy, has in the window. They have a plan, which is something we didn't have in the past. Before I came on, I was looking at weirdly enough, the lineups we used to have under Antonio Conte and all the players we had on the bench, and the team's completely different now. we don't have, Højbjerg, Sanchez, Clement Langley, and those guys that frustrated every single Spurs fan that, we're not anything like that. I think since 2023 till 2025, the squad is completely transformed and changed to the good, I feel. And it's a team I feel I can get behind. I'm disappointed at the moment with the atmosphere at the stadium. I went to the Leicester game, Chris. I saw you before the game, and I was disappointed with the atmosphere. It's something that I absolutely love about our football club. I still do. I think our fan base is very, very passionate, very, very good at times. I mean, I went to games where, the stadium was going to lift off. The Arsenal 3-0, the Liverpool 2-1 when we scored right at the death, and that's what I really love about our football club. I went to a few away games, and the away support is always absolutely brilliant. It's not fair to ask. We need to figure out what's going on. I think results help with the atmosphere. Yeah. I think results help with the atmosphere. If the team wins, the atmosphere, is like a byproduct. But we need to be the 12th man for the team, especially in the European nights. I feel we can really win the Europa League, and that would.
Melvin, I was going to ask, what do you think the board will do if Spurs do not win the Europa League and Spurs finish mid-table and we don't have European football next season? Are they still going to be sympathetic? Because we've heard this in a number of national paper reports that the Spurs board have been sympathetic towards Ange Postecoglou and all of the injuries. Do they review the situation in the summer and say, okay, yes, we've had a lot of injuries, we're really going to kick on next season, we're not going to be playing in Europe, so it'll be like Ange Postecoglou's first season, perhaps a few new additions, perhaps a little bit of quality in the summer, or do they say this isn't good enough, we haven't really moved forward in the 2 years that Postecoglou has been here, we've finished mid-table, we're not in Europe next season, it's disappointing, and do then they make that managerial change? How do you think the club are going to approach this?
I think they'll have a plan. They'll have a plan if we finish in the Champions League, which if we win the Europa League, obviously we get Champions League. I think they'll have a strategy for that and a strategy for if we don't. Which one is most likely? I don't know. Unfortunately, with Tottenham, I don't know. I think if we don't finish in a European spot, the club will still continue on the same path of buying young promising talent. I think they're already talking to Dibbling. With the manager, I don't think we're in a position to sack him. I just think, who's going to come in, who's better than Postecoglou. A lot of players were rejecting us at the time. And, I don't want another managerial chase for multitude of reasons. I still think Postecoglou's the right man for the job. I'm still behind Ange. I always have been from the beginning. I've not wavered on that. These results I put down to injuries, I put down to the lack of leadership, I put down to the lack of experience in the team. I think our midfield is still weak and still the same problems we've had in August we have today. I still think the midfield is not good enough and players need to be sold and moved on. There's things that you could do. I think I have a list of about 4 or 5 players that I would sell in the summer. Unfortunately, Richarlison is one of them. He's done nothing this season for us. A player that I really love. I love his character. And, I would sell Bissouma, right away. For me, he's not done enough. He started okay. He scored against Everton, and for me, he's not good enough. He loses the ball too much. Bentancur, you need to ask questions. There's still question marks on him, but he's been performing not too bad lately. I just feel we need another centre back. I think Archie Gray needs to be played in his natural position. There's, I don't know who you could say. Reguilon needs to obviously moved on. There's a lot of players on loan that needs to be assessed if they need to be sent out on loan again or they need to be sold. And, we cut ties with these players. We cannot keep, how many loans is Dane Scarlett going to go on? Is he going to go on 8 loans before he makes it? You know, they need to either cut ties with these players and sell them on, or buy new ones that are going to make an impact, because we need players that are going to make an impact. What I also want to say, if we do win the Europa League, that would be one of the greatest achievements I've ever seen in my football club. You know, I've only seen us win League Cups at the moment. I think we're in a strong position to go for that. I think the fan base, you know, in a way we are a bit united since the protest. You know, there seems to be a bit of how you say, a unity in that aspect. I mean, to get that amount of people to go to the protest, people are not happy. People want more. I think because of Pochettino, like you said, Chris, Pochettino always comes up because what he gave us.
With you, it does.
Yeah, I tend to mention more Jose and more Conte before Poch.
You mentioned all the ex-managers, yeah.
Yeah, because what we've learned from these managers is that it takes time to build a team. Pochettino took 5 years to get to a Champions League final. It didn't take him, you know, 1 season. So with Postecoglou, we need to give him time. We need to give him we've only had his philosophy for a year and a half now, and we give him time. I love the manager. You know, I love how he speaks, how he comes across. I watched his press conference twice. You know, you post the short version and then the embargo section, and I listen to them twice. And there's always so much information that comes out from Postecoglou and how he speaks. And he's such a good communicator. I feel the transparency with Postecoglou is so much better than the clubs. The club doesn't give us any good information, and I feel safer with him as the manager, because I get a more understanding of where the team is, where the club is, what direction we're heading in, and yeah, I'm still excited, and I like to say these things on video, because from years from now, they are on record. And once, Chris, you said to me, we did a video, and you listened to it, I think years later, and a lot of things that I said came true. And
well, I ought to put a video together, Melvin, of you saying we're going to win a trophy under Pochettino, we're going to win the trophy under Conte, we're going to win a trophy under Jose. I've done the same, actually. You know, but yeah, we could put a compilation video together of me and you saying we're going to win trophies under all these different managers, and they haven't come true. Melvin, you're always such a great guest. You're back on the Spurs Chat podcast on Thursday after the AZ game with Craig, so you can do a lot more talking on Thursday. But thank you so much for joining us. A number of comments in the comments section here are asking, because I keep asking people how the weather is. How is the weather in Malta right now?
Yeah, it's sunny at the moment. Yeah, I'm about to go to our little field and cut some fresh strawberries, and maybe I'll send you a photo, Chris, in the chat. Yeah, a bit of sunlight. So yeah, spring is around the corner, I believe.
Fantastic. Melvin, have a great weekend, and we'll speak to you soon.
You too, guys. All the best.
Cheers. Will you be picking strawberries later on this afternoon?
Might go down Tesco's and get some. I don't know.
Wow. I'll tell you what, I love this show because we do go all around the world. We're now going to go to South Africa and speak to Reza. Reza, how are you? Reza, you're on mute. Oh, we'll get him. We'll get him in a second. Let me see if I can.
Yes, I'm back.
Reza, how are you?
I'm good, mate. And you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Yeah, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
I think I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling much better by listening to the guys and with our injuries getting sorted out. And just very quickly, I would like to start with management. I think Ange is the man for the job because if we get rid of Ange, no manager wants to come to Spurs. You know that. Craig, you know that. What a battle we had to get managers coming in, right? So no one wants to come to Spurs. Even the players don't want to come to Spurs. There's something wrong for them not to want to come, all right? But in saying that, we stick with Ange. I think we give Ange another season. He'll turn the tables. He'll turn things around for us. We need to give him the support. If Daniel Levy gives him the support, or if Daniel Levy is still there, and hopefully he could give Ange the support, we'll start doing well. And with the squad, I think with the return of Vicario, it has brought more confidence in the team, more confidence in the back line. And he makes a good leader also. He talks a hell of a lot, and that's helping them at the back. And listening to a lot of guys talking on your show just now, no one mentioned Danso. Danso is a brilliant player. In watching him, I rate him higher than Romero. Believe you me, I rate him higher than Romero. He can do the job. Yes, I think you're going the right way. All right. With Danso being paired with Van de Ven, that will be a rock-solid central defensive pair. And with Porro and Jet Spence, I tell you what, we'll have a powerful backline. Right? And the good thing about that backline was Jet Spence can play anywhere in the back four. He can also play as a sweeper. He's a man of all seasons. He's a man of all seasons. And he's got the skill and he's got the class. And also what I notice, he reads, he's a good reader of the game. He really reads the game well. When he came on as a sub, I think he had that Brazilian right winger in his pocket after that. He really closed the channel totally, right? And our left back currently, Odego, right? He's really battling. He's come through injuries. I think they're just trying to get him match fit. But Jet Spence is better than both our fullbacks, right? That's like we're having a new player in there, all right? Romero, if he wants to go, cash in. Cash in. His attitude is terrible, and he wants to control the game. He slows our game down, and that is not Spurs. He really slows the game down. Okay, Bergville, I think in one of your shows, I told you this boy's got class.
Yeah,
he's got class in the engine room, and the Man City boss told you that also. I think he's in his press conference with the newspapers. I read that this boy is in another year he'll be a master in his game. He'll be really a master in his game. And if our son Sonny, no one mentions Sonny because we love Sonny, but Sonny has run his race, buddy. He's run his race. I know he's one of your favorites. He was one of my favorites also. But now we're looking at winning. Sonny can't hit the ball anymore. He's running out of pace. His touches are very poor. This youngster, Odobet, he can play. He just needs a little more experience, and I think we got a diamond there. And I think with the youngsters we got, we're going to be a team on fire. We're going to be a team on fire. It's taking me back with Alex Ferguson's youngsters, Gibbs, Beckham, and all these guys. This is this kind of team Spurs are assembling right now. And I tell you what, just a couple more games, the experience is coming through. Last night, Gray won the youngest player of the year. And there's another player in the midfield. We're lacking in midfield. We're really lacking there. The players we need to go out. Number one. Who do you think is my number one? Timo Werner, out the door now. We don't even need him sitting on the bench. He's just taking up space. And we're paying about 150K a week. A lot of money. Okay? But it's a waste. Basuma, he needs to go. Richarlison must go. And Bentancur, I don't think he really fits in the type of midfield we want, really. Sarr can play. He's a youngster also. He will fit in. So we're still going to finish up high. We probably do top 10, and Ange will deliver a cup. I believe in Ange. You must believe in Ange, and Craig must believe in Ange. Let's all believe in Ange.
So no, it's great, Reza. That's great.
There's a lot of stuff there, Reza. Love it.
There is. Just digging into that a little bit. Obviously, you're saying getting rid of a lot of experienced players there. Do you subscribe that we've got to replace those experienced players with experienced players, or would you just continue the youth thing?
No. We have to make some marquee signings. Right? So we have to spend money. We just can't be playing in that market all the time. So the marquee signings are very important. At least 2 marquee signings.
Yep.
Right.
Completely agree.
But I think they have their eye on some good youngsters from the UK. I think the guy from Southampton, the youngster from Southampton, I never watched much of him, but there's a lot of good feedback on him. And I think Ange went through a tough time. He went through a real tough time. And I think he stood by his grounds and he said it as he saw it. And we'll finish off in the top 10. It's not going to be too bad. And he may just surprise us all and deliver us the cup.
Reza, lastly, score prediction for Thursday's game, AZ away.
2-0. We'll win. 2-0.
Love that.
Reza, you're always such a great guest. I feel like I could talk to you for hours. We've got to have you on the podcast very soon. We'll definitely sort that out. I'll be in touch, and we'll speak to you very soon. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too, guys.
Cheers.
All the best.
Cheers.
Right, we're now going to go to Richard. Richard, thank you so much for being patient. I'm so sorry that we're running behind, but as you can tell, we love talking about Tottenham. How are you feeling right now?
Pretty good. Greetings from sunny Broxbourne, hence the shades. But if you go outside, it's a bloody freezing. But there you
I wasn't going to ask.
But Chris, the last time that we spoke, this was before we got knocked out of the FA Cup and the League Cup, and I was pretty deflated as you were. And like you, I want to be saying the trophies are coming. I know you haven't said that in years, but we're desperate to have the silverware, and I just can't see it, unfortunately, under this manager because of the system. It's not just down to the injuries; it's the way we play. We're gun-ho. We leave too much space at the back. We saw that in the last game against Man City. Let's not get crazy about the 1-0 defeat. I mean, the first, 30 minutes, we could have been 3-0 down. They missed a lot of easy chances that they would normally put away. Glenn Hoddle has said it on countless occasions about how we're too easy to play against. And that hasn't changed under Postecoglou. So I know there are a lot of Postecoglou fans out there who say stick with him and so on. But what do we want as a club? We want to be back up there, challenging for honours. We want to be saying the trophies are coming, and we want to be having that confidence that things will change. And right now, we are bang average. We are very much a mediocre team. Even though we have got a very good squad, I feel that should be doing a lot better than what we're doing. And I think that's down to Postecoglou mismanaging the team. There are certain players that need looking after. 3 of our back 4 in the Dogi, Van der Ven especially. Ramiro gets injured at times. But he could have done a lot better with the squad players that we have. I mean, Reguilon is still there, whether he wants him or not, but he's still there. He ostracised, it seemed, Spence, who over the last month, I believe, has been one of our best players, if not our best player. And he should be perhaps the first choice right back at the moment for his performances, because he's more solid defensively than Porro. Porro is a wing back. The Dogi's a wing back. You don't play the players to their strengths with Postecoglou. And it's a results-orientated business we're in. And for the money that's been spent and the backing that he's been given over nearly, 2 seasons, is simply not good enough, Chris. The amount of goals that we've conceded since he's been at the club, I think last year it was 65? Correct me if I'm wrong, in the league. And so far we've conceded 39 in this season. I mean, we're way off from the times when we were under Pochettino. Remember that season, 2016, 2017, we only conceded 26 goals, which is a record for the club.
It's interesting. It's interesting, Richard. I think I asked this probably, and I feel like a broken record sometimes, asking the same question on the podcast to all of the guests. And Craig, let's bring you in here, because I quite often ask you and Ricky Norwood a lot about, does it worry you defensively? Because Ange does seem to have this way of, well, don't worry, if we concede 2, we'll score 3. I always refer back to the Ozzy Ardiles days, particularly that 94-95 season that we mention quite often on these fan shows. But defensively, Craig, do you worry? Because as Richard said there, and as I was going to mention, but Richard's already beat me to it, about Glenn Hoddle saying about us, so easy to score goals against. Is that a worry?
It is, but as you've said before, Chris, it's this system, and doesn't seem that concerned, because it's the old, we're going to score 1 more than you. And, results this season would almost point towards that, in that we've only lost games by more than 1 goal twice, only once in the league. So it's you could argue we're not that far away. It's like Stu said way back at the start of the show, we're not that far away, but there's clearly not the quality in the team to be able to do that. We're still a bit short on players. But having said that, I'd obviously prefer us not to concede as many goals as we are, because as Richard said there, under Pochettino, we had I can't remember what season it was, 16, 17 or 17. It was either the Leicester season or the one after. We had the best goals conceded record in the league. But our goal difference this season is still ridiculously good for our league position. So it's so out of whack.
I was going to say, Craig, I know Postecoglou went on about, I think he used the term good indicator about the goal difference, but I get completely what Richard's saying, because and I'm going to mention Pochettino now, you've forced me into it, we were good defensively, but also were very good going forward. Very, very attractive football. I know exactly what you're saying, Richard, in terms of, we've spoken about it on the podcast, certainly since Postecoglou has arrived, that in that final third, and Postecoglou himself has used the term, wasteful in front of goal in that final third last season and this season. And if you are going to concede goals like we are, you're going to need to be very, very clinical in that final third, which of course we do need ready-made players coming in. In terms of transfers, Richard, what have you made of the transfers under Postecoglou?
Well, Danson looks a very good player. I commend the club, whether Postecoglou was involved in that. I think he looks a solid player. I echo exactly what the previous person you spoke to said about Danson. Bergvall has been superb at times. You can see exactly that he's going to be a hell of a player. And hopefully, at his best, he will be with Spurs. And we could have perhaps got another left back in as a cover for Udogie, but Udogie hasn't really improved under Postecoglou for one reason or another. A lot of players haven't really improved under Postecoglou. And as I said, the tactics, they're very questionable. If you have Poro as a right back and you have Johnson in front of him, I don't think that's going to work because Johnson doesn't really track back as much and provide that defensive cover. So tactically, he's inept. And this is what I said to you on the last time we spoke. I said I would have got rid of Postecoglou then and brought in Harry, an interim manager. Because if you see what's happening at Roma, for example, I mentioned Roma last time with Ranieri. They're climbing up the table and they're not too far off a European spot at this particular moment in time. And this is Ranieri who came out of retirement. So yes, Harry has been out of the game for a while, but as you know yourself, he's sharp mentally, and football hasn't changed that much. That Harry, with the squad that we have, couldn't actually do something with it. But that's gone now. We'll have Ange probably until we get knocked out of the Europa League. And personally, I don't think we'll go very far. And watch out for AZ Alkmaar, because they beat Galatasaray 4-1. Let's not forget that. Some supporters don't know their history. Galatasaray, they hammered us in Turkey. I don't know if you went to Turkey, but they hammered us. And we could have tried a lot there, Chris. So any team that we play, we look vulnerable. Whether it's an average team like Glasgow Rangers, we struggled against Tamworth. I mean, yes, players are coming back. Are they going to be ready to come back. Sometimes you need a few games to get back into your stride. So it's not like a computer game. Well, oh, we've got this player, we've got that player. We're going to suddenly all play better. It takes time sometimes to get that match fitness. And I don't think we've got any world-class players like back in the day with Gaza. We all remember Gaza in 91 in the semi-final. Gaza had a hernia operation, and he came back for that game, and 65 minutes of brilliance. We don't have those game changers that you want to just go to the game just to see one particular player. I'm deflated. I'm like going to the games. I mean, I'm going to the Bournemouth game, and there's not really one player that stands out for me that I think, yes, I want to watch him. This player will get me off my seat. Doku is the type of player that gets you out of your seat, doesn't he? I mean, it's a proper winger.
Richard, who was the last player that got you off your seat and you were excited by?
Well, I know you guys said Klinsmann, but for me, I go back a long way. It was Gaza, but after Gaza, I'll take Gareth Bale. Gareth Bale, for me, before he left for Real Madrid, he was something special.
He was unplayable.
You know when he got the ball, that something could happen. I remember that last goal he scored for us against Southampton, I think it was, in the last minute or two. What a player. What a fantastic player. And it's a shame that it didn't work for him when he came back to Spurs. But that's the last great player for me. But Gaza's my all-time favourite. I've been lucky to meet Gaza a number of times, even trained with Gaza once in the old gym, being a former goalkeeper with Chris Day and people like that. He's my man, Gaza. My favourite player of all time.
I think that Pochettino front 4 or 5, the key thing with that for me, they were just
being mentioned again.
They were just better. They were just better players at the end of the day. You know, Kane, Son, Ali, Eriksen, Dembele. You know, it was just a better front 4 or 5, and that leads to the the pressing was better and the ball retention was better. So.
But Craig, we were organised well. The defence, you could see the defence was worked on, was organised, and you don't get that impression with Postecoglou at all. And I don't want to go for another season like this season. And he's got history with injuries galore, whether it's the training or whatever. There is history there. I don't want another mediocre season like none of us. And that's what we are right now, mediocre. We're in the mud. We should be right up there with this squad, challenging for a top 4. I believe.
Yeah. Richard, you're always such a great guest with so many interesting points, and you're another one that I feel like I could talk to for hours. So thanks so much for coming on, and we look forward to having you on again very soon.
Appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Cheers.
Right,
we're running about 40 minutes behind, everyone, so sorry, this is worse than the doctor's surgery. We're going to go now to... who are we going to go to? We're going to go to Tom in Canada. Tom, thanks so much for being patient. How are you?
Oh, living the dream. Thanks for having me. It's been a while trying to get on, so thanks for having me again.
Tom, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
I mean, conflicted, I think, like everyone else. You're trying to stay positive. You're trying to see the good things of it. I think we had a plan starting in the season, and I don't think that plan was having Gray and Bergvall play this amount of minutes. But I think it was good to see how they're progressing, and I think they're progressing way ahead of schedule, which is good. And we see that the recruitment, and I go back to Pep's press conference after the game, where he started to look down at his bench at players that they paid 70, 75 million for, and looking at the kids that we had, saying maybe Tottenham's onto something. So definitely conflicted, but trying to stay as positive as we can. I mean, I still think we can finish top 8. I do, with all of the players coming back. You could see, however, the importance of Solanke and that press. Like, it's just not there. And I think a lot of people have been critical about Tell, and he's very young and he's going to do it. The only thing that disappoints me with him is that he doesn't press. Like, he doesn't push that back line as much as Solanke does. And I think that's what we've been missing the last couple of games. And I think if Solanke was in that squad against Man City, I think we would have had a different result.
What do you rate? What do you make of Tell, Thomas? Do you think it's too early to tell, or do you think it wasn't deliberate? By the way, do you think he needs more Do you think the centre forward position is his best position, or do you think he'd fare better on the wing?
I think he's better on the wing. I think he doesn't have the size to be a striker in the Premier League. I think you're going to get knocked around quite a bit. I mean, it's one of the toughest leagues to play in. I think putting him on the right or the left to see what he's going to be able to do, it all comes down to delivery as well. You know, I think a lot of the previous callers and guests have said our midfield is weak, and it is. I mean, you see the difference when Maddison's there because the delivery is a little bit better. But Betancourt and Bissouma and Sarr need a whole lot of work. So I think that, you know, in the summer, we're going to have to do something about that midfield and how we deliver. But I also think it'll be interesting to see Gray in a number 6. I think that's where, you know, he needs to be, and showing his how good he is defensively, I think will help. But going back to Tell, I just don't think he has the size and the presence right now, even as a 19-year-old, to be a striker in the Premier League.
Tom, how are you feeling about the Europa League? Because I feel like a lot of fans now are really pinning their hopes and dreams on us lifting a trophy and somehow making this season a success.
I think it's a success, but to calm everything down. You know, it's hard to be North American and try to follow as much. And I'll be honest, I've come to London the last 2 years and brought my family to see matches. And it's funny to talk about the atmosphere because I loved the atmosphere when I was there. I still get, you know, my hair and my arms still, you know, stand on end because it's not something we see in North America. It just isn't. To live that kind of thing, it's impossible here anyway, in any sport. Yeah. But I do think that we're hanging our hat on this because we want something positive to come out of it. I think a lot of the fans that are pro-Ange want something to come out of it. You know, we signed him to a 4-year deal. We want to see what is going to come of this. Do we show the patience of that 4 years and run it out? But like every Tottenham fan, we want to see wins. You know, that Tottenham till we die definitely lives with a lot of us. But I think that's what we're missing with some of the players, that they aren't. You know, it's what disappoints me with Romero is that whether you're unhappy with the way things are going, lead. You're a captain, you're a leader, lead. So you should be giving it your all when you're on the field. Like there should be blood, sweat, and tears everywhere you go. And that's what I want to see. But I'm really, really hoping we walk away with something in the Europa because it'll vindicate a lot of people. But I think from the fans' perspective, you know, we can take a big breath and say, we're onto something, just like we see those little tidbits of positivity here and there. But I think, you know, lifting a trophy, but it'll also show a lot of these young players how to win, which is the most important thing.
Tom, whereabouts in Canada are you?
I'm in Montreal, so I'm buried in snow right now. So I know you guys have been talking about the weather.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
awful. We had 170 centimeters in 4 days. So,
wow.
I'd love that. Honestly, I'd love to live in a climate like that. You know, pray for.
So we got Melvin going to pick his strawberries, and we got
exactly.
you in.
Yeah, no strawberries here.
That's great. Why Spurs, Tom? How did that come about?
So it's funny. You know, I come from a different background. My mother is French Canadian, and my father's from St. Kitts in the West Indies. So I played soccer to the highest level you can get here in Canada until the MLS came on. But I was 2 years old, and my dad sat me in front of the TV, and I saw Jurgen Klinsmann on TV, and it was like a light went off. It was like, oh, okay, him. It's got to be him. And he was playing for West Germany at the time, and I was like, okay, who does he play for a club? And it was Tottenham, and Tottenham till I die ever since, which was weird because none of my family followed, you know, nothing. And now I have my dad hooked to Tottenham. I have my daughter hooked to Tottenham and my son. My wife less, but she's very patient, obviously. But Klinsmann was the it factor for me. It was just an instant love at first sight kind of thing.
See, there's two names that are constant now on these fan shows: Pochettino and Jurgen Klinsmann. Tom, can I go back to talking about Postecoglou, because when you know, it was spoken about at length about Postecoglou coming in, major rebuild at the football club. What have you made of all the criticism aimed at Postecoglou in the last 18 months, 19 months that he's been here? What have you made of his time? Do you think that we are in a better place now than we were when he walked through the door?
Well, I do. I mean, I do. I mean, just from a man who is passionate about the club, wants to win, but isn't about himself. Mourinho and Conte was all about them and how I'm going to win, not about the club, not about the players. You know, going back to his comments about Spence, that it was a club signing. I mean, I don't think there's anything more disgusting than that right now. I mean, look at that. Spence is unbelievable. Unbelievable. And to just look at him in that moment to just say, well, club signing, instead of welcome to the club, son, we're going to do something with you. You know, and that's what I like about Postecoglou is he's passionate about the team, wants to win, and it's all about winning. And it's all about the culture that he wants to build. It's all about the atmosphere that he wants to build, and that the badge means more than anything. And that's exactly what we need. Now, and I hate to mention his name, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of heat for this. You know, I'm on a lot of, you know, fan pages and I follow the team like crazy, and, you know, hearing Pochettino drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely crazy. Like, rip the Band-Aid off. It's over. You know, he was a great manager. He was better than Mourinho. He was better than Conte, but he didn't win anything either. So close the door.
So you don't want him back?
No, not at all.
Do you think
Not
you
at
ever
all.
come back?
I mean, it depends. You know, Daniel Levy was pressured when things weren't going well to bring in world-class manager and bring Mourinho in. So you could see he can be manipulated to a certain extent based on noise. So will he do it? He might. Do I think that he should give Postecoglou at least another season? Absolutely. Because of what I've seen, and it was funny, I go back to that Pep Guardiola press conference where he's talking about our players, and he wanted those players. Like he looked at that bench going, "Whew." You know, they're recruiting the right way. And Danso has been unbelievable. I mean, what a player.
Yeah.
Bergvall's going to be world class, and how we paid £7 million for him.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, think that. Like, that he's going to be $100 million player, and we paid 7. So we're doing something right, and we're heading in the right direction. It's just injuries have completely derailed the season. But I go back to your comment with an earlier guest, Chris. We don't have the squad depth to play the amount of games that we've been playing.
Yeah.
Like, it is obscene the amount of games that players are playing, then extra tournaments. Like, some of these players have the Club World Cup coming up in the summer again. Like, when does it end? And then you have the World Cup next year, and then Europe, and then international qualifications and the international. Like, give them a break. Like, Son is a 30, soon to be 33-year-old world-class player. And people are like, well, he's showing his age. No, he's gassed. He's absolutely gassed. He has nothing left in the tank. And now we're going to go do a tour in Asia again. And so who do you have to play? Him, because he's going to put butts in the seats. And so you're going to have to play him again. No, rest him. Rest him. He needs rest.
Yeah. I've quite often said, I remember the pre-season days when we used to go to like Colchester and Swindon and Oxford, and now we're always flying to somewhere like South Korea or Australia, or, you know, 20-hour flights. Yeah, it's a lot. Tom, you've been an absolutely fantastic guest. I'd love to have you on the Spurs Chat podcast in the very near future. So if you're up for it, we'll definitely be in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks so much again for having me, and take care, guys.
Cheers, Tom. Speak to you
Tom.
soon. Right, we're now going to go to Noel in Ireland. Noel, how are you?
I'm good, Chris. Yourself, Craig?
Yeah, I'm so sorry we're running a little bit late this morning, Noel, or this afternoon now it is. How are you feeling, Noel? I know you're a regular on the channel and you're always here with us talking, but how are you feeling after these last few results?
Well, you know, the last three results up to Man City game were quite good. You know, 9 points, because we were talking, you and me, a few weeks ago, and the mood was very low. And, you know, I was saying, you know, we're on 24 points. And, you know, until you are mathematically have enough points on the board, you are in a relegation battle. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think we're quite comfortable. Very surprised with the starting lineup against City, especially when there was no game this weekend. I would have thought, you know, we should have played, you know, the best team. I think the first half was a very inept performance. Improved a bit in the second half, but the amount of room to give City in the first half was incredible. Like, they were pushing the ball around. Like, you know, people, you know, they're still a good side, but we give them too much respect and too much time. So I thought on Wednesday night, was very, very disappointing. And I think that the next week is going to be pivotal for our season.
Mm-hmm.
We're in Alkmaar on Thursday. Is it Bournemouth at home on Sunday?
Yeah.
So this time next week, or 2 weeks, we will know better, as to how our season is going. I think we actually will get a result in Alkmaar. I think actually possibly 1-1. All the other guys were confident that we would actually win the game 1-0, 2-0. Possibly we can. I don't think we'll lose the tie. I think if we lost that tie over the next week or so, it would be fairly bad for Ange. Maybe not. Maybe they will give him next season. But I think the whole season now depends on the next week, how far we can go in the Europa League. And I think, like a lot of the guys that were talking already, I think we actually can win it. But it's crucial that we get our best players back. I think if we get our centre half, even if we got Van der Ven without Romero, Van der Ven and Danso, still not totally convinced about midfield. And Solanke up front, to me, is a must. I think he's been very, very badly missed. If we could get him back, I think he brings other people into play. And on Wednesday night, even though there was a few chances, I never really thought we were going to score. So next week, Chris, is a pivotal moment in the season.
Craig, can I come to you on a question? Noel mentioned it there, and we haven't really spoken about this, what a huge week it is for the football club. I know they're all big games, but I feel the same, particularly after the atmosphere against City. Next week, the Bournemouth game, I think, is huge in the Premier League because, of course, they are one of those teams above us. We've got to win games like this if we are going to catch teams like Bournemouth. Any chance of having a European spot. And of course, the Europa League, that away leg, I feel like is very important on Thursday. As far as team selection goes, we saw what Postecoglou did on Wednesday against City. In terms of team selection, Craig, do you think that he will go the strongest possible 11, bearing in mind that we would have had an 8-day break?
Should be. In my opinion, you should be. It was clearly players were rested last week at the City game in preparation for this Europa.
Okay, so if we're going to go at full strength, what is the full strength team?
Sorry, it cut out then. Sorry, what did you say?
I was going to say, what is the full strength team?
Oh, that's interesting. For me, and it depends if players are back, doesn't it? But it's Vicario for me. I would put Spence in over Porro. Danso, Van der Ven, if he's back. Udogi. Probably. I can't see how you can drop Archie Gray at the moment. So I would like to see Archie Gray in the middle. Perhaps he might think it's a too big a game, but I think Archie Gray has shown that he performs when he's needed to perform in every single game he's been in that team. So for me, perhaps Archie Gray, Bentancur or Bergvall, and then I would probably, it's difficult, Maddison or Kulusevski in the middle. I think they've both played well. I think Maddison's had some good games. So, I probably think he'll probably go with Kulusevski in there. And then I think he'll start Son on the left. Solanke if he's fit. If not, it'll be Tell. And then probably Johnson on the right. But what our strongest starting 11 is, I couldn't give you an answer. I really couldn't. I mean, if I can ask Noel, actually, what do you make of James Maddison this season? Do you think he's done enough to get in that team for Thursday, our strongest 11, if you like? And who's best in that position, Kulu or Maddison?
I'd like to see both of them start, Craig. I think Maddison has improved. I think we've been critical of him, and he's not been at the standard for a long, long time since he got injured. I'm not even sure Postecoglou, really, because he has subbed him in nearly every game he's played this season. But I think he has really improved. He has scored some crucial goals. I actually like him, and I think he's a leader there as well. We talked about leaders, starting with Vicario. I think it's a team of few leaders. We don't have enough. So I think I would play both of them. And maybe maybe not play Johnson. Yeah,
I was going to ask now. I was going to ask, what do you make of Roy Keane's comments about James Maddison? Because I've got to admit, and this might upset a few people, I actually agreed with a lot of what Roy Keane said.
Well, Roy is a fellow countryman of ourselves. Chris, he doesn't pull any punches.
Yeah.
But I think those comments were made more than a few weeks ago. I think he has improved since he's come back into the team. And there is certain things about what Roy says I think I would agree with. I don't think he's the player that we thought he would be. But at the moment, the midfield is very disjointed. We don't seem to be able to get our best midfield. You know, they're chop and change, and, you know, Sarr is in. Basuma seems to have dropped out of it completely. So I think needs must. I think he's probably the best option that we have at the moment. Going forward next season, I think there'll be serious question marks have to be asked about the whole midfield. I think there'll be a restructure there. Would Maddison be part of it? I'm not so sure he would. You know, if we are ambitious enough to go out and get somebody really good in that position, I think he would become a squad player. Roy, as I say, Roy sort of calls it as it is. He's not a shrinking violet. He wasn't a shrinking violet on the pitch. So, yeah.
It was funny, actually. No, you say about that. I agree with both of you on that. I watched the overlap in the week, and it was brought up about Maddison. And Roy Keane, I love Roy Keane. I think he's brilliant. But he said, I think Gary Neville asked him, "What do you make of the James Maddison doing this?" And he said, "No, fair play to him, And then he said, "Yeah, it's good to see." He said, "You get a tap in against Ipswich, and then you're like, like doing all this or whatever it was."
He said, "Oh, he was then subbed off, and then he started doing all this." It was funny, but I've said on this channel a lot, you know, in the last couple of months. I feel like James Maddison has so much to give. It's just that we want to all see that as Spurs fans on a consistent basis. No, lastly, I'm going to give you 5 names, and I just want you to give me a quick yes or no whether you think that they will be at Spurs for the start of next season. Okay. I'm going to start with manager Postecoglou.
Yes.
Heung-min Son.
Yes.
Romero.
No.
Basuma.
No.
Richarlison.
No.
Craig, do you agree?
I agree 100% with Noel. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Brilliant. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and if you're asking me who I would move on, that would probably be the answer as well.
I think there's one or others on that list that you could add, but you know, we haven't time to go through them.
Go on, quick now, quick.
Obviously, Reguilon, Werner will not be there next season.
Forster.
Who?
Forster.
No chance.
Yeah.
No. We already 3 goalkeepers. You know, Fraser was a good goalkeeper back in the day, but I think actually his display against Man United started a lot of the malaise, because we were actually 3-0 up against United, and Fraser, you know, lets in 2. And if that game had went on for another 5 minutes, I think actually we probably would have lost it. So, and then we went on a real downward spiral after that. So definitely not Fraser. No, definitely. No,
you're always such a great guest. Very level-headed. Thank you so much for your input, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Nice to talk to you, Craig. See you again.
See you
Cheers,
later.
Noel. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Right, we're now going to go to Matt in the US. Matt, great to have you here. So sorry for the wait. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Very well. Have you got the most important question? Have you got Craig's room ready yet?
So, okay, full disclosure, I showed my wife that part of the podcast. You would not believe the crap I got. She basically ragged on me for like 30 minutes. She's like, "What is wrong with you showing them this? You know, what is, you know, this is my house. You have to." So I was like, okay, so I'm going to find this new area. This is our mud room. So as you can see, our beautiful weather here, since everyone's talking about how great their weather is, I think it was Marvin in Malta was talking about strawberries. I'm like, oh, come on. And then Thomas in Montreal was saying that he's got 72 centimeters of snow. I'm like, why can't I have that? I just got this gray cold crap. I'm telling you, man.
Thanks, Stu.
I'm sorry. I gotta kind of end like it's just been wild. It's wild, man. It's wild.
Just for those listening on audio, Stu Miller says here, I showed my wife Craig's face and she said, hell no. That's pretty much what you meant, Matt, wasn't it?
No. Listen, Chris, at work I wear a mask all day so people don't have to see the 60, this horrible 60% right here. They only have to see this. So that's the thing, you know. I got a face for radio. Is that what they say? That face for radio.
So have I.
Matt.
Nah, you guys look a lot better than me. Trust me on that one. Look like I just came out of the cave.
Matt, let's come on to talk about Spurs. And I love the fact that all of you guests today are wearing something Tottenham. How are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan?
You know, I'm okay. I tend to be a positive guy. You know, I kind of look at the last couple of matches as seeing a lot of good things. Bergvall has been, or Berryvale, or however they pronounce it. I'm going to say Bergvall. He's been fantastic. I mean, his little movements through the midfield and like kind of bringing the ball across massive distances, and his moves to bring a defender in and then duck past him real quick is very reminiscent of like what, and I'm not comparing them, like what Dembele used to do. And when we were managed by he who shall not be named, because I will not mention that name again, because Dad's dead. I hate to break it to everybody. Dad's dead. He's not coming home. I'm sorry. I hate hearing about like old trash. Never go through your own trash. That's the thing. Like, it's like an ex-girlfriend. Do you really want to go back there? You know what's there. You know what's there.
If the wife's listening to this, should you be mentioning ex-girlfriends?
Oh, well, you know, she's sleeping. She's sleeping, Chris. So, but yeah, no. I keep all that. I keep the ex-girlfriend information to myself. She'll probably come at me with a knife. She's a chef. She's trained with knives. I don't want to get filleted.
Matt, what I want to know is, right, because obviously you're proudly wearing your Spurs jacket there. Obviously, New Jersey. I'm not sure it's a big Spurs following it. Maybe so. What my question: if you're walking around Newark or Trenton or Princeton or wherever it is you live, do people ever stop you and say, "What team is that?"
There's been once or twice. Usually when I go into work, I have a couple of different like Spurs jumpers. I got that purple jumper. I think I got like a couple of training tops, and so some people do ask, and I try to try to give them a little synopsis. And I was like, we are, there's all these other FCs and Uniteds and all that crap. And we are Hotspur, we're different. We're different. And they're like, oh, are you guys successful? And I'm like, hey, so look at the time. I got a thing, but my daughter loves to tell the story that we were walking around town one day and some guy drove past and he rolled down the window and he's like, Tottenham! I was like, okay, great. Somebody knows. So
it wasn't you, Chris, was it?
Do you know, Matt, a couple of years ago when I was in America and when I used Uber a lot there, a lot of the Uber drivers would say to me, oh, yeah, I like Tottenham. I like watching the English Premier League and I like Tottenham because they're the underdog. And a lot of us Americans like the underdog. Do you feel like that is the case?
America loves an underdog. I love an underdog. I kind of like when people doubt you. My big thing, especially with me, particularly in my career, I love when somebody openly doubts me. Like, oh, yes, you can't do that, because it's like, oh, now I'm going at you. Now I'm even motivated even further to push it even harder to get it to where I'm going. So yeah, I double down.
Yeah, I remember saying to someone, how do you get to run a London marathon? And they're like, no, it takes months of training. You'll never do that. And I'm like, yes, I will. And then about 3 months later, I'm running the London marathon. I agree with you. When someone doubts me, it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it.
That's
Matt.
yeah.
What team? What starting 11 do you want to see Postecoglou put out on Thursday? Strong team, because of course we've got that game on Sunday against Bournemouth in the Premier League. Have you written the league season off? Is it all about the Europa League now for you?
I think you know, I don't want to say yes because if you really look at the table, it's like almost a log jam when you think about it. Like from I believe from the 4th place to like 10th is like a separation of maybe like 6 or 7 points, and from us to 10th I think is like another 5 or 6 points. I'm not exactly sure, but I mean, you know, we have to play a lot of these teams. I think you mentioned earlier that Bournemouth is one of the teams that is above us. We'll be playing a lot of the teams above us. So now is the chance to really catch up on that. And if we do get into form, you know, I could see us moving up the table, ending up in 8th, which is, you know, it's not the greatest when you start off the season. You don't want to say, hey, I want to finish 8th, especially if you're a club of Tottenham Hotspur's stature, because we can't refer to it as just Tottenham anymore. So, I mean, I think we can move up to 8th. I don't think it's a lost season. The Europa League is a good opportunity to kind of like rotate players in and make sure that we continue to get the proper minutes into these players, reintegrate them into the team, and then hopefully, you know, we could move past AZ. I think we're going to put out a very strong team against AZ. I think am I saying that right? AZ? No, right?
Yeah. No, AZ. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think we're going to put out a pretty strong team. If Van de Ven's back, that would be great. If not, you know, it's okay. I think we've seen the Danzo and Gray partnership in center of defense is pretty good. Vicario has been massive since he's come back. Spence has been a revelation. Udogi's, you know, he had that nice run against Ipswich the other day. He's starting to show a little bit of the fitness again. Listen, I think that it's not a lost season. I think we just have to take it one match at a time and don't get too caught up in the hype. Oh, we're 12th, we're 11th, you know, we're 10 points out. Okay, well, let's play the team that we're supposed to play right now. Let's beat them and think about the next game. That's kind of the way that I've always taken it. It's just like one game at a time. It stinks when there's like 7 or 8 days between games and you're like, oh, great, we just lost. And now I get to read a million negative articles and not listen to any podcasts where everybody badmouths and then Ange out and it's just, yeah. So I'm okay with it. I'm positive, and we'll just take it one day at a time.
Van de Ven, Romero, and Solanke are all meant to be back for the home leg, which should be a real positive for us. I think that's on the 13th of March. Matt, thank you so much for coming on again, and we look forward to having you on again very soon, where we can see another part of your house.
One of these days, I'll just take you on a virtual tour. It'll be like that Zillow app or whatever, and we'll go around. I'll show you the backyard, showing my TV, my video game setup. It's, you know, it's great.
Matt, thank you so much. We'll talk to you again very soon. Have a great weekend.
You too, guys. Take care. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Right, we're now going to move on to our last guest of the day, and that is Harry. Harry, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for being patient. Apologies for running over, but you know that we love talking about Spurs. Great to have you here. How are you?
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me on, Craig. How are you as well?
Yeah, nice one, Harry. Nice to see you.
Good.
Harry, how are you feeling right now as a Spurs fan? Because as you probably heard a number of the guys speaking today, is it all about the Europa League for you, or can Spurs get a European spot via the Premier League, and can we go on a tremendous run from now until the end of the season?
I'll be careful with what I say, because a lot of my friends and family call me delusional, highly optimistic, because I think that we can achieve a lot more than we actually ever do. But no, look, I think we can definitely, I think we do prioritise Europa League, because obviously we're out the FA Cup, Carabao Cup. I think we are too far adrift now in the Premier League to catch up. I think you made a good point earlier. If we can get results against Bournemouth, Fulham and Chelsea, they're 3 big league games coming up. So if we can get, I don't know, 2 wins and a draw, maybe even 3 wins, then we could have a late charge. But I think it will take something special to obviously catch up to these clubs, and it will take a lot of losses from teams like Bournemouth, Fulham, Villa as well to allow that. So I think we prioritise Europa League, and we can definitely win that competition if we have a fully fit squad for the final.
Harry, if we win the Europa League, what happens in the summer? Ange Postecoglou, you would think, would stay in his position, if there's any doubt about that. Where do we need to strengthen, regardless of whether we get in those Champions League or just finished in mid-table obscurity with nothing?
Yeah, I think we definitely need to look for another centre back as another backup, because obviously Danso has been solid so far. But then if we mentioned Romero could be on his way out, so then I would make Danso our starter and then bring in another backup and then have Stragusin as well. But I think a right winger is actually a priority, because I like Johnson, but he's very off. Like he's hit and miss. One day he'll score two, but the thing with Johnson is they're quite often a tap in, which isn't the hardest goal to score, and he goes missing quite a lot against City. He was useless in the first half, to be completely honest with you. So I think we need a out-and-out winger who can take on players like Odobert on the left. If we can get someone like that on the right-hand side as well, then we have options. And then I think maybe another number 6 in the midfield. Obviously, we were linked with Ederson from Atalanta a few months back. So I think backup centre-back, right winger, and a midfielder.
Harry, what have you made of the new signings, Tel and Danso? Because it's probably fair to say that they've had a lot more game time than you would have thought coming in the January transfer window, given all of the injuries that we've had. But what have you made of them two so far?
I'm really impressed with Kevin Danso in particular. He was thrown in very, very, I think, probably quicker than he expected. But yeah, he's been solid. He fights to the badge against Ipswich. Obviously, the misplaced pass from Bergvall, which looked as if it was going to go out for a goal kick, he had the determination that he wanted to get to that ball to make it his. And obviously, yes, controversy whether it could have been a penalty or not. For me, it wasn't. I think it was quite soft, but that's a different matter. I've been very, very impressed with Kevin Danso. I think actually he could definitely compete with Romero for the starting spot potentially, but not as impressed with Matthias Tel. Again, though, he's only obviously 19 years old. Again, probably thought he would have a bit more chance off the bench and been thrown into the starting 11. But I just think he needs to be a bit more involved than he is at the moment, because against United and City, he wasn't as involved as I hoped. But then, having said that, there was a nice finish against Villa. So we're seeing glimpses of promise. Just hopefully he can be a bit more consistent, I think.
As Stu says here, of course, Spence will start. That's the whole point of resting him. I agree. What have you made of Jed Spence this season, and should he be starting against AZ?
I've been so impressed with Jed Spence. Honestly, I mean, I've always believed in him, and it just still baffles me how Conte was that stubborn to just never play him, and he would prefer Doherty or prefer Tanganga out of position. Or like Jed Spence is. I think he's one of our players of the season already, because I think Archie Gray is definitely up there. Madison maybe. Kulusevski has kind of sort of fallen off a bit more, but in obviously the early months he was unbelievable. But yeah, I'm so impressed with Jed Spence. He's been unbelievable. He can play on either side. His pace is. He kept. Even in that 6-3 defeat to Liverpool, he was the standout player. He was the player making runs up and down at even 88 minutes, and we're 6-3 down to top of the league. Liverpool. He was still trying to make things happen. He cares. Obviously, all his social media posts with the captions, it shows that he's got the fight. And yeah, he's been unbelievable for us so far.
Harry, which Spurs players will be in Thomas Tuchel's first England squad?
I would love Spence to be in that squad, but I just don't think he will yet.
Really?
I would love him to, and I hope he does. And optimistically, I'll say he will be in there. But I can't see Tuchel starting him, to be honest with you. He may get in the squad, yeah, and he has to. If he doesn't, then it's just, yeah, it's unbelievable if he doesn't. But Madison has to be in there as well, because he is our most creative player. And this season, I think he's our top scorer this season, and he just makes things happen.
I think there's a opportunity for Jed to be in the squad at left back, to be honest, as cover for both sides, obviously. But I think that left back spot for England, although I think, Chris, you said your typical Luke Shaw is going to be fit probably for England and will get in there, but I can't see it this time. But I think he's got an opportunity to definitely get in there. Where's that comment? Oh, yes, TSOM says here, Donnelly to come in next season too. What have you made of Jamie Donnelly's loan at Orient, and do you think he's got the potential to make impact in the squad next season?
I can't say I've watched too much Leyton Orient, to be honest with you, but I did watch the game against City in the Cup, and obviously the audacity to take on that shot from the halfway line against, you know, multiple Premier League time winners, you know, Manchester City as a club was unbelievable. It was I mean, the technique on it was brilliant. I think he oozes class. So, I mean, yeah, like I said, I've not watched loads of it. I couldn't give you a in-depth analysis, but I think Donnelly is definitely someone that we could bring in and definitely introduce off the bench the first few games if he impresses, and maybe even give a few starts in the Cup here and there, because he's definitely someone. I mean, obviously we've loaned him out to get better, to improve, and then hopefully Ange has got him in his plans for the future.
The thing is, Craig, I've actually seen Jamie Donnelly live do that a couple of times last season for the Spurs under-21s. Unbelievable talent, and never ever shy in having a pop shot like that when there's an opportunity. Harry, thanks so much for coming on. I know you're a part of the Spurs Direct. Tell everyone about that.
Yeah, so I run the Spurs Direct account on Instagram. So up there was obviously videos that I make. Not so many at the moment, but post content creation, and then I'll obviously upload clips from the podcast we do onto there as well. So, but obviously studying journalism as well, so it's just something that I do alongside my studies, just to try and get my name out there as much as possible.
Harry, can I just ask you what I asked Noel, just to see if you agree? The following 5 guys, will they be at Spurs at the start of next season? Postecoglou?
Yeah.
Son?
Yes.
Romero?
Yes.
Yes?
I think so, because he hasn't attended many games, but I think he's still got. I think when he comes back, he's going to want to have a point to prove if he's still interested. And I just think he's too of an important of a player to get rid of, to be honest.
Basuma?
No.
And Richarlison?
Unfortunately, not with Richarlison. No. Too injury prone.
Harry, always such a great guest. Thanks so much for coming on. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Craig and Chris. See you soon. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you. Craig, I've got to say, another fantastic fan show, and many different opinions. Spoke about so many different subjects, and I know that we're running almost 40 minutes behind. It was meant to be a 2-hour show. It's almost 2 hours 40, but it's hard sometimes. I know you wanted to put a 5-minute timer on these people, but it's hard when we're talking about Spurs. It's just hard to cut off, isn't it?
It certainly is. Yeah. It's these fan shows just tend to whiz by more than the podcast after a game, especially when we lose. By the way, they always seem to go on a bit longer, or feel like they do.
Yeah.
But it's great to talk to fans all around the world. I think it's fantastic, and I hope more and more come on, new guests as well.
Yes.
Feel free to come on from wherever you are. We're trying to cover all 205 odd countries around the world, and I think we can probably tick off about 100 so far. Perhaps not that many, but there's loads more out there, so please feel free to come on the show, because it's great to talk to all of you.
Absolutely. If you'd like to come on the show, please do send me an email, tottenhamfanchris@gmail.com. As I said at the start, your thoughts and opinions are very, very important. It's very important to us that we cover every single subject about Spurs. Whatever you want to talk about, you can come on, you can have a rant, you can just talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can ask Craig and I a question, or we can carry on asking you questions. But as you can probably tell from listening to this, watching this, we could talk about Tottenham all day long. Thank you so much for all of your incredible support, by the way. I've just looked, we're just nearly at 160,000 subscribers, which is absolutely unbelievable. Wow. And as I said at the start, I'm very proud that this is the most watched and listened to Spurs fan channel on YouTube. So, a big thank you. Craig, have a great weekend. We're not going to lose this weekend, which is great. You're going to be hosting the Spurs Chat podcast on Thursday. I'll be out in Amsterdam, travelling over to AZ Alkmaar for the last 16 first leg. Really looking forward to that. What are you up to this weekend? Just chilling and relaxing?
Yeah, like you say, at least we can't lose this weekend, which is great. So just probably, the kids have got football tomorrow, so be out watching one of those games. So just chilling today, and might catch a game later if one's on. So all good.
What score prediction are you going for on Thursday?
I think it'll be a draw. It'll be 1-1 or 2-2. And I think Troy Parrott will score.
And do you think we're going all the way to the final?
Probably a bit deluded, but I think we've got a really good chance. I do. Players coming back at the right time. The draws open up for us. Yeah, there's going to be some tough games, especially away ones. I'm not ideal having the second leg away, but if we can get the business done in the home leg and then at least take leads, hopefully, into the second leg, then we got a chance. And like I say, we get past AZ, we're in the quarters, so anything can happen.
Anything can happen, indeed, yes. Craig, thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. Try and relax. Try and have a smile on your face. And we will see you again very soon, everyone. Thanks for all of your support, as I've said. If you don't subscribe to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button. And remember that all of these episodes are available on all major audio platforms. Have a great weekend. We'll see you again soon. Come on, you Spurs.